Guys, intro time.
Wait, which intro?
The wisdom check.
Oh, good.
Wait, no. I thought we were keeping the old intro. What's wrong with the old one? People like that one.
It was too long.
Yeah.
Too many fucking gifs.
Yeah.
Yeah. But can we keep the part where I yell more?
No.
But it's the intro to end all intros.
I got, like, what, 2 lines last time?
Do you want more lines, Tim?
Well, no, not really.
In a world without answers.
Yeah.
Wait, you want to start with that?
Here we go. Exactly like last time.
Wait, okay, so we're doing the exact same way? Let's start with the Smoky Bar.
No. It's a new season. We have to have a new intro.
More.
Not sure why we thought this would go any differently.
Oh, well. Welcome, everyone, to the Wisdom Check, where Jeff and Dustin welcome a guest every week to talk about Dungeons & Dragons. Welcome.
This is ridiculous. I'm starting the stream now.
Wait, where's my die at? Well, we can't start until I botch, and it's not an intro unless I'm botching.
You're on.
We are live, and welcome everyone in the chat. Good to see everyone again for another Wisdom Check episode. I am Jeff, as always. Across the way from me, you're going to see Levi is joining us tonight, and that's because Dustin decided to take it off and let an artist show up to help us out with this awesome interview that we're about to have. Thank you, Levi, for joining us.
Given current company, me touting the title artist is a grand overstatement. So,
And we are joined, of course, in the middle here by Ed Beard Jr., who you may recognize as we kind of get into the artwork here from quite a bit of connections with the Magic the Gathering crowd. So you're going to see some awesome stuff you've probably seen on your cards. And if not there is tons of other cool stuff we're going to get into throughout this episode tonight. We're going to be covering up my ugly face and putting some cool artwork in here for you to see. And you're going to see all kinds of stuff, including some automotive art that was really blowing me away. So Thank you very much for joining us, Ed. Much appreciate you.
My pleasure. Thank you, guys.
So with the initial part here, what we usually like to kind of get into is to figure out kind of how you got started. What was the moment that kind of brought you into whatever your passion is, and in this case, it's art. So how did you get started with your art?
All right. Well, as a child of the late 60s and 70s, back in those days, we had slideshows. So in 4th or 5th grade, we're sitting in the class, and they're doing a little history class. And they threw up some pictures of the Sistine Chapel and some Michelangelo work and Da Vinci, like some of these cool gargoyles and grotesque figures, and anatomical drawings. Mm-hmm. And I'm like every other kid at that time, I'm like drawing Hot Wheels cars and superhero characters and stuff. But this thing got my attention, and I'm looking at it and going, oh, that's really cool. Creation of man. Oh, that's wild. Look at those characters, nice. All the demons and shit. So I said, I'm going to go to the library, and I'm going to take out a book and see more about this. And I took the book out, I went home, and now, mind you, up to this point, I really didn't feel I had any skill sets whatsoever.
Okay.
I was just like every other kid, doodling a Hot Wheels cars or something like that. And I took it home, and there was a couple of these old men, beards, and very wizard-like, actually.
Yeah.
And this is, you're talking 1974, 73, so it's early 70s, the height. Think of the height of the hot rod vans and, big wizards and dragons and stuff. This was on everything we looked at as a kid.
Yeah.
We had the black light posters, albums had big posters that came out. This was the day. This was, Roger Dean was the man. Roger Dean with Yes albums and so forth. So I get this thing down, and I'm looking at it, I'm going, I wonder if I could draw that. I just felt compelled to try to copy it. And I did it, and I went, damn, I actually did a pretty good job with it. I had a good photographic memory. I could replicate what I saw. And I said, all right, well, how did these guys do this? And I was reading about Da Vinci's background. I was reading that, okay, they studied anatomy, and they studied medical anatomy. They learned Latin. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go check it out. I'm going to go take out a Gray's Anatomy book or maybe a William Reimer. And I started studying anatomy at 11 years old, 12 years old.
At 11.
Man, that's incredible.
And I was drawing every dissection you can know, and studying it in Latin to understand it. Then during the summer of that year, I got out of school. I took a medical illustration class at a college. It was Rhode Island College, actually. And they had a internship with Rhode Island Hospital to do dissections on cadavers. So here I am, I'm 11 years old, and I'm hanging with college prep med students, and I'm doodling. And these kids are like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "Well, I'm here to study to draw." You know, while we're messing with them.
There's
like,
no way that would ever happen now. That's amazing.
No, it would not happen. No. And I got in because I think the reason I got into that was somebody that we knew was involved in the school. And this was
God, you're an 11-year-old drawing cadavers?
Yeah, it was pretty wild. It was really cool. So a little bit of that, and so I from that point I started getting totally into the Renaissance and medieval art, which is a natural evolution into fantasy art because you go into the Dark Ages, the Middle Age art, you study the Byzantine, you study all these cultures. Right. And I pretty much, by the time I was 12 years old, I had drawn hundreds and hundreds of some of the great masters' works. I would replicate everything I could see, studying the anatomy, and then of course, always observing around me. See, when you start to develop the skill set of recognizing light and shade, reflective light, and composition and perspective, and all these things, you just get hungry for what else can I see? So I go take. I was now another thing you can't do anymore. I was 12 years old, and I would take a bus to go down an hour away to the big city, just so that I could hang out at some of these old Victorian homes and draw architecture. You know, and I would literally be. I was from Providence, Rhode Island. So in Rhode Island, which was where Prospect really Park was.
Yeah.
And, you know, you had all, you know, Roger Williams, you had everything 1700. So I'm looking at all this tremendous architecture of this early colonialism thing. And I'm just drawing everything I can see. And then I'm drawing trees and knolls. But every time I did something, I would always throw a skull in it, a demon in it, and some other crazy thing.
Gotta spice it up.
Keep it interesting. Keep it interesting.
Yeah. So from that, I go fast forward to high school, 9th grade. And I'm in the art class. This is high school. In our school, it was 9th, 10th, and 11th. 9th through 12th.
Okay.
No, wrong. 10th through 12th. It was junior high school was 7th, 8th, and 9th. So it was actually 10th grade.
Okay.
So I'm in 10th grade. Okay. The art teacher, and this is Cranston Schools, Cranston, Rhode Island. So the art teacher at that time, she had a couple of different projects to do. One of them was fruit bowls and still life and bicycle tires. And I was bored as hell with it. And so I threw a skull in it. You know, even though the skull's not there, but I had studied anatomy, so I knew what I was doing. So out of my head, I'm drawing it, and I got, she graded F. She said, "What are you doing with this skull?" Oh, yeah.
Terrible.
She would trash me. So she, and of course, they would do a class review. So here she is. She puts it up on the screen, and he says, "So tell us what's wrong with Mr. Beard's piece of artwork today." You know, and it was always just, she just hated me. That's
just cruel.
She did. Well, what's wrong is he's painting something that isn't there. That's the problem. So then the big thing with that whole deal that really actually launched my career as a self-employed illustrator was towards the end of that year, there was a big project, your big class project. And you had the decision-making process of deciding what the subject matter was going to be, how you were going to lay it out in the whole bit. I'm thinking, oh my God, finally. So I decided I was going to do a picture, 18 by 24 size, that was going to be called The Masks of Society. And it was going to have all these masks with, think of an old Twilight Zone episode, you know, greed, the 7 deadly sins, all this stuff. And when I initially thought about it, without sketching it out or laying it out, I had to put it in writing. I said, well, there'll probably be maybe 12 figures. Well, when I got to the actual drawing, that wasn't going to work out symmetrically. So I had to have one in the center, you know, so.
In the odd number,
Yes, I had to have an odd number. So it was basically, so I submitted it. And again, the first and only thing she said about it, well, by the way, the class is looking at it going, this is so cool.
Right.
Boom, D-.
You're the people's champion.
Oh.
Yes, D-. This is a piece of crap. You didn't follow your own instructions, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, no.
So knowing that I'm a defiant child, and I'm 14 and I think it was 15, going to be 15. I was like, you know what? Fine, whatever. I'm out of this class. So it was like maybe a week later, a friend of mine who's in my English class sits down. He says, "Hey, congratulations that your artwork's in the library at the art show." And I went, "What?" So she puts the artwork, she put it up with the rest of the A work and her class pets. Nice. Getting credit for the work while she's flailing me in the class.
Oh, God.
Bitch.
So yeah. So think about this. So I'm 14 and a half, 15. I'm not taking this crap.
Mhm.
So I immediately call a meeting. I call a meeting with the guidance counselor, and I said, I want to speak to the superintendent. Now, what 14-year-old kid does that, right? I get a meeting with this guy, the superintendent. He sits down. I explained to him what happened. I said, look, here's the deal. She doesn't think I have a qualifying grade. That's fine. But she doesn't have a right to be a hypocrite and use my work to get her benefit and to have praise given her way.
Right.
If my work isn't suitable to get a decent grade, it sure as heck shouldn't be.
It's not suitable for
Absolutely.
her show. No.
Mhm.
And he didn't disagree. And he said, fair enough, Ed. And I think he scheduled a meeting. So I get back on a week later. I'm sitting in the office. Here she comes. She's infuriated. How dare this 14-year-old challenge her, right? She sits down next to me and she says, she goes, I don't understand the meaning of this. How dare you bring me in on this? Blah, 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 blah. And he said, yeah. So he asks her, he says, well, did you do this? She goes, just because he's talented doesn't mean he deserves a good grade. So at that point, he said, well, by the same token, if he doesn't deserve a good grade, you shouldn't be taking credit for his work in an art show.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So he said, I think that what we have here is a discretionary issue. And I think that Mr. Beard, young Mr. Beard here is absolutely right in what he said. She's infuriated. And she says to him, she goes, how dare you? I am the head of the art department. I have tenure. You have nothing to say here. She storms out.
Oh man, those are the
So
golden years when tenure meant something.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Yes, you're an
I
art
could
teacher.
never say that now.
Right, and you're an art teacher, so you know this. So imagine in that time period. So this is like 78, 79.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
78, yeah. So this is the peak of tenure. Unions, teacher unions were super strong.
You couldn't touch a teacher; they were in there forever, like a tick. Yeah,
You got it. So she leaves, and he looks at me, and this was the first time I had a life lesson. And he said to me, so Ed, how do you feel right now? I said, I think I did good. He goes, you did, don't you? You think you did good? He says, are you familiar with what tenure means? I said, I have no idea what it means. And he explained to me the politics of it all. He said, so what it basically means is, Ed, she's the head of the art department. She has basically dismissed you from the classes. That's 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. What you've missed now on this is you'll have no introductory art credits for any college. You will not be getting scholarships. You will not be getting grants because you're going to be out of the loop. He goes, so this is the lesson I'm telling you today. You won the battle and lost the war.
It's a good teacher.
He said, pick your battles.
Freshman?
Yeah, he said, pick your battles real well. So I looked at him and my answer to him was, I said, actually, I did win the war. Because what happened there is she saved me from a draft that I would never want to be a part of. I said, and if this is the way the institutional art systems work with teachers like that, I'm better off self-taught. And that's exactly what I did. So I self-taught myself. And, we fast forward. The first things I did as soon as I was self-employed in 1980, I had been doing portraiture before that. 76 to 79.
Sure.
I was doing portraiture for like government officials and judges and stuff. I had a pretty good career at that time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, as a young guy, one of the commissions I got was to do it was called the Marriage Feast of Canaan. It's where Jesus turns the water to wine. Mm-hmm. And I was commissioned by a bishop from my state who coordinated, somehow I was meeting up with a cardinal. So I met up with the Cardinal Medeiros from Boston. And I got to present the cardinal with this drawing. Well, he took it back to Rome. And in that year, 1978.
What?
No, I'm serious. So 1978, they were doing an international arts project. And I got selected to be the youngest artist from the United States to meet Pope Paul VI. So I got to have a private audience with this guy, Pope Paul, who, by the way, was senile at the time anyway.
Oh.
So my picture, my drawing, wound up getting put into the Vatican's Papal Garden Library and still there to this day, which is really kind of cool. Imagine being a teenager and having this. So I got this big gold medallion. Which got stolen in school.
To talk about Magic the Gathering. You met the fucking Pope before you graduated high school. What the hell?
While I was getting kicked out of the art class. But it's so cool. What's so cool about this is all of this stuff, all of the highs and lows and the crazy things that happened to me gave me the foundation for what I was going to do for the rest of my life. So it's very, think about it. How many people get fortunate enough to know exactly what they're going to do at 11 years old. And
well, arguably, in high school, you were given a divine mandate to keep going. So.
Yeah.
I was. Oh, in defiance of her. Oh my God, yeah. I was dared. I would not fail just to prove her wrong. But yeah, so I got out, and the first thing I did, because my buddies and I, we built hot rods. We were in shop class. Right. And, you know, in the time, late 70s, everybody had murals on their hot rods. So I had to learn the airbrush, and I had to learn to paint letter and sign painting and whatnot. So I hung out the local body shops during that first year. Well, it was actually 11th grade and 12th grade. And I learned to do the quill. I learned the airbrush. And about 3 or 4 years into it, I was starting to experiment on our buddies' cars, including my own. And we started showing our cars at the World of Wheels or some of the custom car shows. And I had a pretty good run of about 8 to 10 years of doing automotive airbrushing. But at the same time, I was doing these large-scale murals, which, Jeff, if you go to the pictures I sent you, there's a picture of the Happy Days character, the Elvis Presley and Fats Domino. It's a building, and it's like a diner. Yeah,
I know which one you're talking about. I just got to find it in my list.
And that would be a picture of me, I think 1983. Yeah, it was about 83. And that kind of began how I basically made a living. I mean, and I should say I didn't make a living. All the work that I was doing back in those days. I mean, I was living out of my car. I was living out of my car. Sometimes I was on the street. I was on the street for about a year.
Wow, that's rough.
Hopping from churches to churches just to survive, and eat food-wise. So you really, people will say so many over the years, so many students that I've had, because I should tell you that one of the things I did right out of high school is I started volunteering at the YMCA doing art classes. And it was grades 5th, 6th, and 7th. And I was doing everything from caricature, animation, illustration, and just doing cool stuff with the kids. And there was 20 or so in the class. And so I did that because I couldn't get into college. I got rejected by Rhode Island School of Design after, mind you, I had already done all of these portraits. Hubert Humphrey, Vice President Hubert Humphrey. If you got a kid that did a portrait for Hubert Humphrey, Senator Claiborne Pell, the Pell Grant, I did him and his wife. Noel.
Okay, did RISD? What grounds did RISD have to say for saying no?
Well, it was very eloquently put. So whoever the dean was at the time, like 1981, 82, his exact words were to me. I got in and I said, "Look, here's my portfolio." Sure. And at that time, I had done all of these murals. I had done all of these automotive. I had done the work for the Cardinal. And
mural work is no joke. It takes forever. It's a fucking marathon. Like, if anything, a mural speaks greater volumes than any one painting because they're just consuming.
Yeah, huge. I was doing 4-story buildings. I was on pump jack.
Oh my God.
4 stories high. Yeah, Boston, Rhode Island, New York. So I was traveling the country, actually, in New Mexico, in Taos, New Mexico. So I'm doing all these murals, and I had a pretty good portfolio, but I was like, I would really love to learn more about different mediums that I don't have, like sculpting, for instance.
Right.
And so I went in there, and he looked at my portfolio, and he said, Mr. Beard, he said, this school works to mold students into their image. You already have molded your image. There's nothing really that you can do for us. That's what he said. He said, there's nothing you can do for us. He threw a book at me, which was basically Renaissance Masters. And he said, so the next time you come back, if you're looking for scholarships or grants, I want to see you in that book. And until you're in that book, you're not getting any scholarships, but you're welcome to go in down the hall and pay for your tuition. This guy, so twice in my life, the only time I had any academic intervention, it was completely rejected. So I made a pledge right out of high school that I was never going to let that happen to any young artist or student or anybody of any age that I came across. So I started volunteering teaching so that I could get in touch with these young people, because during the 70s, this was a prevalent thing. For whatever reason, I swear to God, what I think happened there was a lot of art teachers that wound up in public school took it because it was a default for their teaching certificate, not because they really genuinely wanted it. They had a little bit of skill, but that was it.
Yeah. The 70s, 80s was referred to as laissez-faire attitude in art education, where the idea is like you let the kid go on their own journey and they will teach themselves everything they need to know, and you just have to kind of stand there. And so it gave us all a bad reputation. Like, it really did.
I wish
that was sort of like the hippie
way.
Icon of the art teacher. That's where that was kind of born.
Man.
So yes, so she was a late 60s. The woman that was my art teacher at the time definitely was of a late 60s. She probably graduated college in 67, 68 at the time.
Okay.
So, but one of the things that was continually told to us, artists of the 70s, and your dad, Dave, your dad, Jeff, will probably say this too, because he's only a year or two older than me.
Mhm.
It all comes down to this: comic book art is not real art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Heard that a lot.
Fantasy art is nothing more. The biggest thing I kept hearing: fantasy illustration or illustration in general is commercial by default and is beneath the fine artist. This is the shit that we heard.
It's still said. We so every year is National Portfolio Day, which travels around the United States from college to college, and I take students to it. I've had some of my best kids. I always have my best kids hit the mean schools first, because at least they'll be straightforward. They'll be mean, but they'll be straightforward, and they're not just going to blow smoke to get your parents' checkbook. And Ringling and RISD will still point out if something is too commercial, and that is the word they use, meaning a negative.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And I came from Rhode Island, so I was done for there.
Yeah.
And that's the saddest thing. So did you, by the way, find that picture?
I did, yeah. It's been up covering my face here. So we're ready to go.
Awesome. So here's the thing. I can't see any pictures you're putting up.
It's all good. Yeah, it's right there. It's right there. I'm looking at it right now.
I didn't know you had the picture up.
Oh, sorry. No problem.
So Fonzie's on the left, Marilyn's in the middle, and then you are on the far right standing in front of it.
Now, see, on my screen, I'm in the upper left-hand corner, and there's just you two. Split screen. Isn't that weird? Okay. This is my first time on Twitch, or Discord, I should say. So getting back to arts and teaching, right? So pretty soon, by the time of mid-'80s, I had gotten more into children book illustration. I had created my own book, looking to get published, didn't have any luck. So in the meantime, I'm doing everything from comic book stores. I'm doing murals on walls. 84 was a big year for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know how old you guys are, but do you recognize that stuff?
Yeah, no, we are that generation.
Yeah.
My brother had a lot of the toys that were his thing. He needed them.
Okay. Well, there would be, back in my day, there were arcades where this was like right around the time that Donkey Kong just came out. Pac-Man. Okay, Pac-Man was a video arcade game in stores. There was no Atari was the only thing that was out.
Yep.
Well, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game is legendary. Like that thing had a line around it.
Okay, I know. So one of the big arcades, the biggest ones in our area in Warwick, Rhode Island, needed murals, and I did all of the Ninja Turtle stuff, big giant 24 characters. Basically every single major game character of the time.
Right.
And so that's how I made my living. Even Chuck E. Cheese. I had to do murals in Chuck E. Cheese.
Oh, shit. That's awesome.
Whatever you had to do, you painted on any surface. I even had some of those rides, and oh my God, I had to strip them down and airbrush them and all that stuff. I used to do carnival rides. Whatever you could do to make the bills.
That's amazing.
Because don't forget, there was no internet. There was no any form of social media. It was all newspaper. And the only
somewhere out there in the United States as we speak, there are carnival rides with your own airbrushing on it. Like,
there are actually some murals that have still survived since the early 70s.
Amazing.
I love that so much.
Yeah. I actually just not too long ago, about a year ago, had somebody send me pictures of stuff. It's kind of cool. But so yeah, that during those times, if you were to try to survive as an artist, you had to go knocking door to door. Like some of the things I would do. I'd go to restaurants like an Italian bistro or whatever, and I'd say, hey, would you like the Leaning Tower of Pisa painted on your inside of your restaurant or in the outside of your building, a sign that was both a mural and sign work.
Right.
So I would be hustling that. At the same time, I'd be hitting all the auto body shops, all the bike shops to build, that building Harleys and stuff, and saying, look, I can do these murals and stuff. And of course, in the mid-'80s, everything was neon, splatter paint, and oh my God, balloon parachute pants, that whole time period. It started to fall off. And that's why I started pursuing what I always wanted to do, which was fantasy art. Because at the time in the mid-'80s, you had Boris Vallejo's calendar.
Right.
You had Frank Frazetta, of course.
Yes.
You had Roger Dean. You had a lot of the collector cards that were done by FPG and Comic Images and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I thought, I got to find a way to get connected to Dungeons and Dragons. So I went to the comic book store that I was doing t-shirt airbrushing once a weekend on. I was doing like everything from Thanos and Silver Surfer and all that stuff.
Awesome.
And I thought, I saw these RPGs, TSR, and I asked the guy, where is this company out of? Because there was no online. To find out who the manufacturer was or where they were located, you had to look at the side of the box to be able to
look at the
contact
publication information in the books. And like that's all you had.
That's all we had. And so then you had to make a phone call. So in order to get the phone number, if you're in one state to get to the other, you had to go to the library and you had to look up the Thompson Register. Oh, yeah.
That's
These are the things that if you aren't from that generation, you have no idea.
You'd have no context. If I told my kid, by the way, if you really want this, you're going to have to take 3 steps, drive to 3 different locations,
they'd never
and look up all the stuff on your own. He'd be like, I think I'm good. I think I'm out.
Things change really quickly.
So you had to go through basically phone books for every state because the library had all the phone books from all the states. Anyways, I found TSR's number. It was like 1989 at this point. I gave him a call and I said, I'd love to possibly go to your convention because that was the first time I knew about Gen Con. And it was the comic book store owner that told me about it. And so I said, I submitted my portfolio in the mail, waited, didn't get a response. 1990 comes around, didn't get a response. Well, 91, my daughter's born. And I'm like, all of a sudden I get this response that says, and I should tell you that at that point I had started working for the comic. I got a lucky break to do an independent comic book. And I had sent my portfolio to DC and I was working with one of the editors at the time and they were having me do they were pinups that were going to be in the British versions of the Batman comic book. So I was working on this project and I was able to submit that to TSR. So TSR had me in 1992 at Gen Con as a listed guest as a comic book artist. So that's the only reason I got there. And so while I'm there, I remember this company coming by, Wizards of the Coast. I think all they had was a role-playing game at that time.
Yeah.
That's hard to believe.
I totally, I'm like, whatever. So I go the following year, after I had gone to a whole bunch of other comic shows and stuff. The following year I go, so it's 1993, and I'm there, and the art director there at the time, Jesper Meifers, comes by, and I'm sitting next to Melissa Benson. Mark Poole is there. I think Jeff Menges was there. Quite a few of us, and we're all at the same time. And I'm there as a comic book artist, and they come by to me, and they said, well, we're doing this card game. We only need this. It's going to be printed with this little teeny square of art. And then the bottom of the card is going to be text. It plays kind of like poker, if you will, blah, blah, blah. Strategy game. And I just looked at him and I went, who's going to buy this? Who's going to buy this? There's this little teeny bit of artwork.
Who's going to buy this?
Who's going to buy this? And I said, because at that time, the only kind of art game-related cards were full-faced cards. I can't remember the couple of names, and they were scratch-offs and things like that. So this was such a unique concept. And again, I wasn't a gamer; I was an illustrator. So my thought was, in the 80s, it was all about the art. It wasn't about the mechanics.
Yeah, and some of that early art was like, I remember in the first pack, I got a Mons Goblin Raiders, and I'm like, those aren't goblins. But then my friend's like, it doesn't matter. They're a 1/1. Exactly. I'm like, okay, those aren't goblins. I don't know what those are, but they are goblins.
Yeah. Mechanics reign supreme. So they offered $50 and up to 10 shares per piece of artwork. And I said to myself, I quickly looked up. This company's worth nothing. I want you to think about this. So this company is worth nothing at the time.
Yeah.
And I just got through being bankrupted on because a company that owed me $30,000 didn't pay. So I was done with charity. I was at the wrong, leave it to my luck. I had just gotten done with giving out stuff for nothing. And so Melissa Benson, who's next to me, who we got to become really good friends, she's like, I'm taking the job. I got nothing to lose. She takes, 10 or 15 cards. I pass. The following year, obviously, the set comes out. Actually, it was 93 August the set came out. It was 92 that we were talking about this. So the set comes out. I'm at Gen Con. I'm walking around, and everybody and their uncle's playing this thing. And I'm like, oh, man.
No.
So Jesper comes back over to me, and he says, hey, well, he said, are you interested now? I said, yeah, I'm okay. Talk to me. And he goes, well, we'll be willing to do that, but we're not going to give you shares now. Oh yeah. So instead of $50, it was $100, but it was plus royalty of 2.5%. And so, so at that point, I just said, you know what? I'm not going to gamble against this company again. I'm going to go take the deal, which was great. So now we fast forward to 1996 or 7, I think it is.
Okay.
When Hasbro buys them out. Now, what happens when people own shares of a company that gets bought out? They have to have their shares bought. Well, the value of those shares were worth something like $1,500 a share.
Ooh.
Wow.
And each artist had 10 shares or more, I think it was 10, per piece of artwork. So you're talking about every artist is getting a check for $150,000. So no word of a lie, 1997, I come home. I have just picked up my daughter from school. And there's a message left on my voicemail. And it's from Melissa Benson.
Oh, God.
And she says to me, hey, Ed, you remember that day back in 1992 when you were sitting there and you said this company isn't going to make it? This is how we're getting this now. Well, I'm sitting here with $100,000 check. How about you?
Oh, just twisting that knife.
Busting my balls, man. It was freaking awesome.
So mean.
Yeah, we had a great relationship. But yeah, I said, you're right. That's why I don't gamble, and that's why I don't invest in anything but my own stuff, because I suck at investment. Yeah, so that took you fast forward to how I got into the gaming, and all those years in between, I continued to teach. I had private classes. Twice a week, once a week, until I got on the road with conventions, and I was on the road 10 months of the year from 93 on.
It's a busy life.
So I only taught at the conventions, which is why I got involved with the Origins Art Show as the art show director, and our college where we could teach. And so I did art classes with those, the kids that would show up at the Origins show and stuff. And yeah, it's been really, my life story has always been about making sure the stuff that happened to me never happened to anybody else.
That's awesome.
When I'm at conventions or I do Renaissance fairs, I own buildings at Michigan, Ohio, Tennessee, Florida. At one time I did Massachusetts. I had about 7 Renaissance fairs that I had business at. So I was always on the road with them. But, when you're at Ren Fair, you meet thousands of people that come into those fairs. So many of them, when they come into my booth, you can tell right off the bat which kid is interested in art for artistic sake, right?
Right.
And I'll always approach, if I'm there, I'm approaching them. And I'll notice and I'll, talk with them a little bit and I'll get some feedback. And sure enough, I'll find out that, you know what? They are definitely someone who's interested in art. And I'll say, so do you like to draw? And they'll start the conversation. And they're usually very shy and timid and whatnot. And I say, well, listen, I'm here, X amount of weekends of the show. Bring in some of the stuff. I would love to see what you do.
Oh, that's nice.
And so many of them will.
So cool.
Yeah. And one of the things that I tell them right off the bat is I said, the one thing you can be guaranteed you're going to find from me is that the second you present your portfolio to me, you're going to hear this first. I'm going to look through everything you do, and I'm going to point out all these amazing things that you do right. I'm going to talk about the things that you have managed to see that most people can't see. I'm going to point out the things that you have managed to master. And I'm going to tell you everything that you're doing correctly. And then all I'm going to do, if I see something that could be improved, then I'm going to say, do you want to know how you can make this even better? Now, that's a big difference.
That is really
big
good.
difference than saying, this you didn't do right. This is wrong. That's negative reinforcement. We need positive reinforcement, right? What the heck's the difference? There's no reason to knock someone down. And I've seen what they do at colleges and the portfolio review and stuff.
It's brutal.
It's harsh.
Yeah.
So it's been a pretty cool life of creativity when I've had the chance to do that. And, even though I didn't really, most people would have quit. And I kept being told that a lot of my friends and said, why are you still doing this? You're sleeping on the street. You're out of your car. When are you going to just quit? And I'm like, because I don't want to have to live my life in regret that I didn't pursue this and give 110%. That's,
Yeah. I mean, when you know what your passion is, you're going to go into it 110%. And, in kind of a weird way, it almost seems like a blessing that you had, big obstacles to start off with.
Yeah.
Because obviously that kind of builds in that kind of internal fortitude and that, drive to just shove into people's faces and say, look, I can do this,
Yeah. You can literally say the Pope loves my stuff.
Well, it's ironic how karma takes care of itself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
20 years after I graduated high school, I'm 40 years out. So 20 years later, I got a call from he was actually going to be retiring, this English teacher. I did not have him. He was a couple of years older than me. He was, 4 years older than me. He was a young first-year teacher during the 11th grade year, or 10th grade year, when I had stopped. And he starts the conversation off. He says, "You don't know me." He said, "But I know you." He said, "My son and my daughter actually play the Magic cards. And I know you graduated from the high school here." And we had our 50th anniversary book, which was going to showcase individuals who had been alumni that had graduated, who became the most successful in any particular discipline. And he said, "I couldn't help but choose you." And he said, "For art." And I said, "I wanted to tell you why. When I was a first-year teacher, he said there was this art teacher at the time that would come into the teacher's lounge and would bitch profusely about this 14-year-old kid that drove. Yeah. And so I'm listening to this and I'm going, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah." He said, all of us teachers could not understand how a 14-year-old could get under this woman's skin. She was the head of the art department. She had multiple tenure. But he said, "You did something to her." I said, "Yeah, I took her before the superintendent." And he starts laughing. He goes, "Well," he said, "I thought you'd be interested to know. She is still alive, and we have mailed her with a Post-it note on your page, the book."
Oh my God. That is excellent.
And I had nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so there you go, man. What goes around comes with redemption.
Oh, that is great. Well, you got some fans here in the chat that want to say hi. So let me scroll back up and at least get that one in for you. Which one was the first one there? There's more chat than I thought. So the Real Happy Bunny says hi. Destiny Beard Music says, "Hi, Dad. Glad to see you in chat." And obviously my dad's in the chat right now and wants to say Origins is great and so is Ed. Now we did get a question from Gladius Rex Maximus. Let's see. Let me read it real quick. Oh, yeah.
That's powerful.
Gladius is Dustin, who I'm taking his spot tonight. So he's the other host on a typical day.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So Dustin wants to know, did the people at TSR or Hasbro reject any art for the cards? If so, what did you ever do with the alternate art for the cards?
Well, that's excellent.
Okay. Wow, that's a great question because yes. One of them was, the name was changed. See, when we were commissioned artwork from Wizards, they would give us a bogus name because they didn't want us to release the name of the cards. And if that card never got painted, if that painting never got published, and
then it just falls to obscurity.
You didn't know what the name might have really been. But I wound up finding out because it was so obviously the same. It was Fire Tail Whip or something like that. So So now we're going to get into the good. This is now we get into the little behind the scene kind of dirty stuff behind the scene.
I'm ready.
So
I'm ready.
I had a great relationship with Jesper Meifers, great relationship with Dana Knudsen, the second art director for the deal, who took us right through until about 2000, 2001, when Jeremy Cranford comes on board. Now, Jeremy made it very clear up front to me by calling me directly and introducing himself by saying, quote, "Mr. Beard, just want to let you know I'm the new art director." He says, "I'm very well aware that you are one of the A-list artists with the prior art directors and a favorite of theirs. But I want to make it very clear to you up front, I don't like your style." He said, for instance, Birds of Paradise. To me, he said, that's something that belongs in Audubon books or calendars. It doesn't belong on a Magic card. Then he would say, I think there was a couple other comments, a few other cards. He said, under my control, under my tutorial leadership, I am going to bring Magic to meet Matrix. Now, at the time, the Matrix movies were a popular thing, right? They were starting to, and so one of the things that this guy's baby was Mirrodin. Do you remember Mirrodin?
Yeah, I remember Mirrodin. Vaguely,
Okay.
yeah. Mirrodin's around the time I started to step out, but yes, I know what it is.
Oh, you stepped out at a good time.
Likewise, yeah.
So Mirrodin was all about a metallic world. And that's when they started to implement real hardcore style guide must be followed to the T, where everything was directed. I mean, every leaf had to be from the style guide. So you lost creative freedom. Yeah, you lost creative freedom. there was everything was going in a direction of very, I don't know how to explain it. It was bulky, cyborg, bizarre, like nothing classical fantasy by any means. Very removed from that. It was going into a very odd and weird. I don't even know how to describe it.
Sure.
But, well, I do know how to describe it. Did I send you the picture of Dross Crocodile?
Let me see. Let me see
Dross Crocodile.
I've seen crocodiles. Let me look for that.
First off, his line about Birds of Paradise looking like it belongs in Audubon and saying that is your style. It's not. Your style's versatile. Like, it goes all over the place. And fuck him. Half the stuff in the current artwork.
Yes.
Half the stuff in the current artwork, they're legitimately shooting for an odd blend of comic style action pose with realism. Like, all their stuff looks realistic now, mostly.
I know. So at that time, before that, in the beginning, the big success to the visual appeal for the Magic the Gathering product, and no one will dispute this, was the diversity of styles and techniques.
Yeah, what I liked that I had my guys that I liked, and then my friends liked other guys for different reasons, and we would all get like nerdy about which artist made cool stuff, and we would go against our own color to get the guys' cards that we liked. Oh, that's sweet.
Is this the right one with the green kind of like acidy water?
Yeah.
Perfect.
So as you're looking at the Dross Crocodile, that was one of the things. Now, the description of the art there was I had to create a crocodile with basically a giant hot rod motor coming out of it. So it had to have exhaust pipes with green mist. It was armored, cyborg, no eyes, really bizarre stuff. And it was very metallic, very, I don't know, almost like Judge Dredd feel to it.
Okay.
And that was all fine. Don't get me wrong. I had a lot of kids that loved that card. That was the direction this guy wanted to take. So anything that looked like traditional classical fantasy was on his no-no list. In addition, the words as the discussion went. I said, well, good to meet you too, Jeremy. So I appreciate your upfront honesty. I said, but I would beg to differ that the public and the players would kind of argue with you that the diversity of style and technique, and whether it be the painting that you say looks like an Audubon, which, by the way, the description of the commission was bright, colorful, small, sparrow-like bird flies over tree canopy. That's what I did.
That's pretty spot on, yeah.
I get that you're taking it in a different direction, and that's fine. I said, but diversity and style changes, color palette changes, and these types of things is why there's such an artistic collectability to the set, and what brings in such a diverse crowd. Some people like oil painting. Some people like watercolor. Some people look like that comic book pen and ink look. And he said, and while that may be true, he said, that doesn't give a brand a look. He said, if you know anything, he goes, if you know anything about business and corporation, he goes, you know that a corporation's objective is to control the style, look, and feel, and brand. He goes, if we have all of these unique individual artistic style, one going above somebody else, now we're at the mercy of the artist who happens to be the most popular. Now they can name their tune. And I like, wow, I get where you're coming from, Mr. Businessman and Mr. going by the corporate rule of law, and I get that. I said, but you know what? When you start sacrificing diversity of style and technique for streamline, what is the best way to put it is...
conformity.
It's a uniformity. It's a uniformity. And the style guides, basically directed you to do that. I mean, you had very limited flexibility in those early 2000s. So that set came out, and then the next set, Invasions, I think it was, had a little more diversity because it was kind of Arabic and this and that. But I think it lasted up until it was Kamigawa and
Kamigawa.
The last set that I did. What was that set? It was 2004 or 5. Return to Ravnica.
Oh, Ravnica.
So the last set that I did,
the first Ravnica, right?
The first Ravnica. So I have to go back 60 years in my mind here. But, so Ravnica was the last. Now Ravnica had some potential, and it was kind of a nice blend of things.
Ravnica's got a massive fan. I'm a huge Ravnica fan. Just because it represents diversity. Like, you pick a tribe in Ravnica that you like, and then that's your guy. Like,
absolutely.
That's what fans love, picking a tribe and
Real
calling
quick
themselves
interrupt here. We just got a raiding party from Soulstorm 1031, bringing a couple new fans to come hang out with us. So thank you guys for jumping in the stream with us. Tonight we're talking to Ed Beard Jr., who is a famous Magic the Gathering artist. So among other things that we're going to get into a little later. So we're currently talking about kind of the behind the scenes, kind of interesting political kind of stuff, and digging into some really awesome stories.
I'm sorry for the minutia of this question. I understand you didn't originally have the black tips on the Bird of Paradise wings, and they altered it. Do you know why they altered your artwork?
Yeah, I know a lot. Oh yeah. So going back to that whole statement that the art director Jeremy said to me about how he hated the piece, right? That was so I did it for 7th edition. And in 7th edition, the only component which was black was supposed to be the spots on the head. And as you go back to the feathers, you see those black spots.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So in that time when I think it was 8th edition, right? Yeah, it was 8th edition that they put the black spots on it, the black wingtips. So they hired this art continuity team that decided they were going to take the liberties to digitally alter whatever art they decided without contacting the artist, without talking about it.
That is atrocious.
So here's the thing about that. If they had called me and said, hey, Ed, we're going to do an 8th edition. We'd like you to blacken the tips. I'd be like, no problem.
Sure.
But they didn't even have the decency and the courtesy to do the shitless thing.
That's just shitty.
That's real shitty.
It's just shitty. That was just a minor shit thing there. But so homogenization is what happened in those early 2000s under this style. It's when you start a style guide that keeps everybody the same color palette. That was the other thing. Color palette had to be the same. This is the colors you're going to use. And they were at that time starting to get heavy into the digital art. So they were giving you downloadable palettes and color. So and I'm obviously a traditional guy. I do traditional painting because I like to have an original piece of artwork to sell afterwards, make some money. Because they were all
everything about that is them saying branding and convenience and streamlining, but it's also a fuck you to the old school guys who to work analog, and there's analog and digital are hand in hand now. They're married, and you just pick one and it doesn't matter because it'll be beautiful. So I have seen
it turn completely around, and I called it too back in the early 2005, 6. I got a lot of flack from those artists that were graduating the colleges digitally. What I should tell you, it's another irony, is I was paid, speaking of Ringling, I was paid to go to the senior classes to do seminars and demonstrations, to talk to these college graduates, the very schools that rejected me, including Rhode Island. Right. To talk to them about how they could practically apply their skill sets and actually pay back their student loans. So I was paid to do that up until Adobe came in. And once Adobe took the illustration departments and literally everything became whack-up tablets and monitors, no longer pencil sketching or nothing, that's when I was told, Ed, we don't need you anymore. And that was fine. I knew that. I'm like, okay, that's cool. So we're talking right around that 2005 mark. And that was when we had several, I forget I think it was conceptart.org was the name of the place. It was an online forum called conceptart.org. And there was some of these premium digital artists that were out there claiming that anyone who still hand paints is a dinosaur and is going to go away like the horse and the buggy.
Oh my!
And so,
fuck you, no.
God. And so they actually posted from my website comments that I had made about how I always said, look, it's more important than anything in illustration to preserve the original fine art aspect of it, which is in fact the tangible original piece of art. Yeah. But you can kill two birds with one stone if you can. Why not? Right?
Yeah.
I never ever said you should not learn the digital techniques. I did. I learned Photoshop. I learned Illustrator for vector art. I had to do packaging and box design and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when I had the opportunity to do something that was a book cover or a calendar piece of artwork, speaking of calendars.
Here we go.
I did this calendar. This was for Barnes and Nobles and Borders for like 15 years,
Oh, that's awesome.
There's all kinds of, weird, wild, crazy fantasy stuff in it.
I'm nearly positive I had that.
Nearly positive I had that.
I used to say, look, guys, economically, it makes more sense to hand paint. Because at the end of the day, you take a scan, you send that scan over to the company, they got what they want. Now you've got a one-of-a-kind original that you can sell for thousands of dollars. If all you're doing is pushing pixels, at the end of the day, you are commercial by default because you're not going to have anything other than the value of a print, a poster. And I said, let's talk economics. I mean, that's all I was doing, right? Oh, I got lambasted. I got slammed. And so I kept saying, I said, you know what's going to happen, guys? I'm a teacher, right? So I have 20, 30 students every semester that I do my classes. I travel all over the country doing these seminars and classes. And I'm telling you what I see. Go back, like say early 90s and 80s, when everyone was tangible, you had no option.
Right.
Out of 100 students who could wield the brush and had hand-eye coordination, about 10% of them were proficient enough to work for publishers. The rest, not quite there. There's a whole different art skill set, a craftsmanship to handling and wielding against gravity on a brush, a blob of paint.
Yes.
Whereas, because here's the thing, it's a permanent medium in many cases. Not all of it's reworkable. Or it's very difficult to rework. But if you have endless editability, such as the digital format does, you can make the mistakes until you get it right.
It makes you sloppy. You don't have to be perfect the first time out. Yeah.
Right. Which means you are going to eventually have supply and demand. You're going to have more artists that are proficient, which is going to flood the market with very proficient artists to do the same job.
Wow.
Companies are going to lower the fees that they normally paid, which they absolutely did. I was getting $3,500 for a cover back in 93, 94. As soon as Photoshop 7, 8, and finally 10 and CS came out, they were down to $2,500. 10 years later, they were 10 years. I think in the early mid 2000s, they were still only paying $2,500. And I kept calling this, and I said, guys, this is not an issue of like some kind of pitchfork and flames against the digital artist. It's about diversity, and it's about recognizing economically what, number one, you can preserve an art form. Two, you can make huge money on selling the original, and you can still be a commercial illustrator, satisfy your publication needs. And that really pissed off a lot of, digital artist graduates because they had no skill sets in tangible medium. They couldn't do it. And I'm out there on video, and I'm starting to do, I started in 2007 on Facebook and YouTube, and I'm doing live demonstrations with permanent ink. I would take a black Sharpie marker, and without any pencil sketching, bang out a drawing, right? And I would say while I was doing this, and I would say, now here's the thing, guys. What I'm doing for you right now, or anytime we work in a permanent medium, where every brushstroke has to be perfectly and accurately placed, or you better make a happy accident out of it.
Yeah,
exactly.
That skill set takes years to develop, to hone.
Yeah.
One of the things your mind does, it's called executory thought process. The ability to calculate in ratios of negative and positive space every possible angle to get to the right one. And it's a proven fact because I worked with neurologists who were studying the brain's functionality and were using digital programs, and they were looking at my skill sets and the abilities that we had for those people that had photographic memory skill sets and how brain injury cases could improve theirs. And what they found was when you work in a digital environment, you can, when you have endless editability for anything you do in life, you will never commit because you don't have to. You're not going to commit to a brushstroke.
Right.
So if you're always working it till you get it right, then you never use the part of your brain that looks at something and looks at spatial relationships definitively. So you're losing this skill set little by little because and so when I did that, I said,
softer.
Yeah, so what you're really losing is the performance aspect of art. I'm a performer when I'm doing a drawing in front of someone that I don't have an eraser. I have no reference material. And they're looking at like, you got a blank sheet of paper. How the heck are you doing this? I'm like, that's entertainment. Now there's another aspect of value.
It's magic. Yeah.
And so about 2010 to 12, all of a sudden, those same anti-tangible artists that said we would all be dinosaurs and go at bygones with the horse and buggy, all started to pick up the paintbrush, all started to do drawings. My classes started to get filled again. And I just said, guys, it's called what goes around comes around. It's an old, what's old is new. And I said, when you sacrifice any one skill, or one tool for another exclusively, you're going to narrow your options. And why do that?
And at the end of the day, an analog artist can learn digital. It's much harder for digital to go backwards. It's like the digital purists, they have a hard time picking that up.
And the reason for that is because of the commitment aspect. It's because the techniques that you use in digital is you work it till you get it right.
Yeah.
And when you don't have this mentality of that every brushstroke has to count, because it doesn't,
Yeah.
that's what you need to have in order to be in the tangible medium. Most of the time, I mean, someone will argue, well, with oils you can rework forever. Some mediums are more favorable, more forgiving than others. I work in acrylics; they're not forgiving.
Yeah,
You put that painting down, you better be on the right spot, because otherwise you're painting over again. And how many layers do you want to really waste your time putting on there?
Yeah.
And so I guess it comes down to efficiency versus craftsmanship versus performance art. And I saw that happening with Magic the Gathering, where the art directors were pushing and pushing. We want it digital. We want it digital. Well, and actually, for a time, just before I left, and while I was leaving, they were really emphasizing we don't want the tangible artists. We want digital files, and they wanted them not flattened. They wanted them layered.
Why?
Now, I'll tell you.
Oh boy.
Well, I had this discussion, and I said, you want these files layered. I said, you know what that says to me, since economically I'm thinking business-wise now? You can pull the background, or you can pull a character, and you can use it for multiple locations, which is exactly what they did.
Yep.
They would take images from a painting and use it on the box. Now, let's go back a few years before the digital capacity to do that. They would have had to pay me a fee separate for the box as well as the painting. So economically, they were saving money working in the layered format, and they were using the same art for multiple purposes. Wow. And again, that goes back to, well, they owned the copyright at one point. And it's like, yeah, but if I get a fee to do a piece of artwork, the intent was that artwork would be used for this particular subject publication.
Right.
And I saw this evolution happening, and I just went, it's my time to move out. I had a great run. It was 14 years. It was fun. And I just went to just continuing to teach. I got more into my original roots, which was automotive airbrushing, which I know you have plenty of pictures to show on that.
Oh, absolutely. Let me pull a couple up here, because this is actually what I was going to ask about. With what you're talking about here, this is an obvious example where you cannot screw up. Like, you're working on somebody's car, so and I imagine you see like the line work on a lot of these vehicles, and like, you don't get long to make that right. Like, those angles don't just naturally flow out if you start and stop. Like, how long did it take you to kind of develop that skill? Because to me, it's kind of like tattooing, where like, you don't get a second try on this, and somebody's got to really, really trust you to get started.
And very much. And that's why, God, I have such high respect for the tattoo artists that are working on people's skin. That's as permanent as you get. Now, granted, you have the ability to transfer imagery, but a lot of artists actually go straight to the skin, which is amazing. Those are the guys that are the maestros, if you will, of tattoo. In automotive, you aren't getting any more permanent than automotive, because first off, you're working in order to distribute paint onto a metal surface, because there's no absorbing in that surface. It's not porous. You have to use the airbrush. Then for lettering and for line work, you have to use striping brushes or liner brushes. And so you're working with automotive paint, which is either it's solvent-based or I'm using water-based. I'm using a waterborne product because I don't like the fumes. So I'm using PPG and Enviro-based. Either way, the viscosity of automotive paint is super thin. So when you brush that, you got to be right on the money, because that will drip in a heartbeat if you don't have the right on your brush.
That makes me nervous talking about it. Like when I have a runner going and I'm like, I'm like shoving my thumb and trying to.
Let me.
You have to.
Which image do you want me to pull up here?
I developed my. What you should pull up? Let's see, something that's a good example. All right. There's a sign. There's a picture of me in front of the hood of an orange van called the Orange Crate, and I'm actually working on the lettering. Speaking of line work, I'm working on the lettering of the top of the van. That van, by the way, is going to SEMA. It was supposed to be there this year, but it's going 2021. It's called the Orange Crate, and it's a side view of me painting. I don't know if it's up yet. Yeah,
you're on the left-hand side. The hood is there, and you're working on it looks like maybe an orange.
Oh, it's tiki.
Yes,
fantastic.
Right, so I created my own font and designed it.
That's really cool.
Now, so I did that. I didn't send you this picture, but basically I hand drew a pencil on two sides, laid it out. Yeah. Then when I took that, in order to airbrush, you have to cut friskets. You basically have to stencil out, block off your background so that you can airbrush. And it's many, many stages and levels. But in the end, if you are doing stuff that I'm doing, which is I try to get that crisp, clean, tight line. And you can only do that by blocking your backgrounds off with taping it off.
Right.
The other method of airbrush is freehand airbrush, where you get a soft, fuzzy line.
Yeah.
And even though you can get some tight line work with some of the Micron airbrushes, you don't get that cleanness.
You can feel that fuzz from really far away. You never really get a sharp edge from it. And not like
I don't
what
feel
you've
you do.
got.
No, and I like people to be on top of my images to actually, because you can see the pores of the skin on some of my portraitures on these vehicles. But it all comes down to the ability to control the line work, which I developed over probably 5 or 6 years training with a master letterer. I mean, the guy was in his 90s, and I met him in the late 70s, and he gave me his quill set because he was retiring.
Wow.
And for about a week, I got to spend with the guy, and he showed me the techniques of holding the brush. Striping and stuff like that is just redundant practice. In order to have a steady line and be able to follow the contour, and you're dealing with this wad, this bubble of paint that could burst at any time, and you're laying it down on something you just spent hours airbrushing, and you got one shot to get it right. You got to know everything. You got to consider the angle of the hood or the surface of the metal and how it curves around the corner.
Yeah.
So it's a multifaceted skill set that the only way you learn it is by experiment, trial and error. So you take scrap metal, you take old tanks and fenders,
There it is.
and you just you practice and practice and practice.
Wow.
And so I guess and so in the automotive world, which is what I started with in the late 70s, and I then returned to it about 2010, where I built my own van. I think I sent you pictures of the Dragon Lord.
I'll find it.
I saw pictures online of the Dragon Lord. It is a lot. There is a lot going on in that van. That's amazing.
That's the history of dragons, right? So it's basically the Dungeons and Dragons van. It was at Origins in the middle of the convention center in 2013.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but it basically goes from the hood is all about fire and volcanic dragons.
Yeah.
And then the Ice Age came around, and then the cooling, and then the ice dragons came around, and then finally the water dragons. The picture, there's a couple of pictures of it. One is you see 3 people standing in front of the side. It's my wife and my kids. It's Halloween.
Okay, that one. Okay. I just put up the Vanarama 9 poster for the time being here. So that one's up right at the moment.
Oh, the Vanarama, the Mobile Mystic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mobile Mystic.
So being a kid of the 70s, I love vans. And that van that's mine, that is technically my daily driver, that Dragon Lord. I bought that new as a cargo van. It was green. And I beat the crap out of it. We took it to all the conventions. And it was a cargo van. I mean, it was rotted out and a whole bit. And I completely rebuilt that, my son and I, from square up. We redid everything.
It's amazing.
I think I've got it here.
Something. I went to my first van event at Carlisle Truck Nationals. And I met this gentleman named Kirk Hollis, to which he was producing the Vanarama show. And I said to him, dude, I would love to co-work with you. And I will produce the logos, the T-shirts, and everything, because I just want to be a part of it. And so every year, I
just want to be a van show because I love vans. That's amazing.
That's so good.
Oh, you've got a pumpkin mask on, and
that
is fantastic.
Perfect. I'm looking at these little tiny images right now.
Oh, you're looking at tiny images? Okay.
Yeah.
If you go to the orange crate, back to the orange van, you'll see side views. I think there's some side views of the van. It's got the surfboard on the top.
Okay, I think I remember that one.
It's a pirate. There's both a pirate woman and a pirate man, and a dog. Remember the
dog on the side?
Van? Yeah. So that's the van that's going to SEMA. That's actually Boss Hog Torque Converters, ACC's featured vehicle for SEMA in Las Vegas next year. But the owners of that van, Brett and Dorinda Sutton, with their dog Bandit, I actually met them at one of the vanning events. And this guy, he's 60 years old, just turned 60. And he was a child of the 70s. He always wanted a custom van. And he said, one of his buddies said, you got to meet this guy that's at the Carlisle Truck Nationals at Vanarama. He airbrushes on the site. And, this guy's got some cool stuff. So he met me, and he saw another pirate van that I had done. And he said, I've always wanted to do a theme that's somewhat similar. I live in St. Augustine, Florida. I would like to do something that has maybe a lot about oranges. This van I just got is a big, giant carpet hauler. So it's a super extended, no windows. And he said, I'd love to turn it into something like the Orange Crate, where it's a bunch of oranges. It's a tribute to Florida and St. Augustine because it's got the lighthouse, the ghost lighthouse. That's where some of the pictures, you'll see the lighthouse.
Yeah, I remember that one.
That's St. Augustine's lighthouse.
Nice. Okay, let me rotate through some of these here real quick. Because right now we're looking at the pirate and the dog with the mug up.
Yes. So that's the owner. That's an actual portrait of the owner of the van.
He looks
And
really
his wife
familiar, by
is
the way.
on the other side.
That's because he's got pictures of him and his, I'm assuming, wife in on your website. Like
Correct.
they're in the same costume.
Yes. So that's how seriously you want to talk about totally into it. So not only did the guy commissioned me to do this massive project, which is portraits of himself, his wife as the pirate queen, the bandit, the dog is the pirate king. We have a whole story. I designed into the mural hidden objects. There's hundreds of hidden objects.
Oh, nice.
It's actually a cipher. You have a quest to find. Now, the back of the van is a map of what Florida looked like in 1776, I believe it was.
Yep,
No,
I got the lighthouse up, and I'll bring that one up,
not
though.
1777. It was 1760 and 1762. Those are the birth dates for the husband and wife. 1960.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Oh, that's cool. There's the Florida one that you're talking about.
Yeah. So I had to go and look to do that map on the back of the van.
Wow.
I wanted it to be accurate. So
Yeah.
I researched topography, and I went online with guys that were doing this stuff and cartographers and saying, okay, how would I estimate the erosion of the lands of Florida? What would be shown?
Oh my
what would not?
God.
Wow.
So that map is actually to scale
Nice
of what
attention
it
to
would
detail.
be like. And there is coordinates. I know you can't see in the pictures, but there's coordinates in actual longitude, latitude that are locations that are very specific to where these folks visit regularly.
Oh my God.
And in the clues, it spells out it's all about the journey.
That is amazing.
So yeah,
That's sweet.
that's why I really can't tell you how rewarding it is to do the work for these kind of clients, because these you're not building this van for resale. No one's going to buy this. It's a one shot. This is for
it's
them.
a cherished thing that belongs to. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that you've made
They
a
become-
family member.
It is a
Yeah,
family.
yeah.
It
At that
becomes an
point.
heirloom. But these guys, when I got done creating this, I mean, honestly, they didn't give me much input. They just said, we like oranges. We like the old orange crates. I love surfing. And I'm like, okay, St. Augustine, surfboards, pirates. I got to come up with a storyline. So I came up with a storyline that these pirates had traveled to the Bermuda Triangle and in the 1760s and got thrown forward in time to 1970, 74, which is the year of the van. Came up on shore and met up with a bunch of hippies at a tiki bar, and they were playing Jimmy Buffett albums and stuff. And the pirates had a bunch of fun and started drinking and having a
The
hoopla.
van has a backstory.
That is
Yes,
amazing.
it has a backstory.
So we got a question from a potential client here in the audience. They want to know, I hate to ask, but what does a project like that get you charged?
Say it again.
It basically is asking how much
He's
for
asking
something like this. Yeah.
For the vans?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, every job's different, but something like that bad boy there, it's a SEMA show, so it's a big dollar deal. You know, you can get anywhere from 20,000 to 50,000.
Nice. That seems appropriate.
There's another van that I did 2 years ago. It's won all the national championships. It's called the Shanna Marie, and that actually happens to be a pirate van too. It's just a coincidence, but that guy's van was similar, a much shorter Chevy. It was a Chevy Shorty. And I think that was a $25,000 project. Let's put it this way. To do a custom van in one color at any custom body shop these days, it's going to run you about 15 to 20 grand. So I'm providing the artwork end of it. I'm not doing the body work or anything else. I am doing the clear coat and I am doing the artwork, but that's about that's around the top tier, anywhere from 20 to 25,000. But again, it depends on the work you get too. I deliver that piece I just did had portraits in it, 3 portraits. It had exact replicas of St. Augustine landmarks. This thing was not like I'm just doing a fantasy scene that's out of my head that's easy. I can bang it out at any time. This was like, and then the map alone, the research to do it. This thing had, and then the front hood, it's 100% original logo.
I found the Shanna Marie. It's a pirate sitting at a table writing with a ghost. Okay, hold on. I'll just drop that in.
Now,
And that,
was
by the way,
the
is the
alligator
portrait.
one the same as the? Is that the same
Yes.
van? Okay, so I got that one up right now with it looks like the alligator's tail maybe going up.
Yeah, so that was their pet that I threw in there because it's Florida. You got to put a gator. It's Florida. So I thought we'll throw a little kid, little juvenile gator in there. And that was what I did with that whole van is I did Facebook Lives on every section of it.
Oh, that's
so if you
cool.
go to my
That's
website, you can
awesome.
3-4 hour, I think it was 4-hour long Facebooks where
Oh,
people
wow.
could tune in at any time and literally they could watch the whole process of that van.
Wow, that's awesome. That's amazing.
So
awesome.
it was pretty fun to do that kind of, but I mean, yeah, this is the jobs that I do now. Besides that, this thing behind me, this is a commission.
That's awesome.
And it's a portrait of the husband and wife. This is a gentleman who owns this piece. He's a Marine, former Marine. Well, never a former Marine. He's a retired Marine. He loves to be a Knights Templar at the Renaissance Fair. That's his favorite thing to do.
Yeah,
His wife,
that tracks.
yeah. So his wife is there, and they wanted a picture of themselves as somehow involved, a Knights Templar.
Sure.
So I came up with a storyline of a Knights Templar at the end of his road. He's had a very long war and battle. He's coming through a perilous forest. And in front of him, though he can't see it, his horse notices it, is this angelic being, kind of an energy level, which is his wife, and she'll be glowing, who is guiding the way through this forest. And in the trees, you'll see the Ents and demons kind of backing off from the light, being repelled by it.
Oh,
so yeah.
I love
That's
that.
awesome.
Yeah, so
and
the
total
personal
side
idea-
note, I stumbled across a Lord Soth you did. Thank you. It's beautiful. I fucking loved Lord Soth, and that was well done. It was lovely.
Yeah, I love Night of the Black Rose, and that was a great opportunity to do that piece. I got and at the time when I did it, I got the license to do it. I still have a license. Oh, you're gonna love it. I have a license since 1996 that I've never used. It was no time limit on it to do Dritz and Artemis battling in the Crystal Shard Tower.
Oh my god!
And I can do 500 prints, and that's it.
Wow.
So
my
I've
God.
been waiting for that. I got a guy to commission me to do it. So I'm actually paid to do it. So I'm gonna file be my next project for this coming year.
Nice.
That's gonna be kind of fun.
Let's see.
Yeah.
You just have somebody just handing out cards for that, standing next to the Drizzt statue at Gen Con with that giant. Oh my god, that thing.
Yeah. So I wish, I would love to have said that, I could have stuck around in the gaming industry a little longer per se, because it was fun. I did enjoy it.
Yeah.
But the industry became so commercial. It fell so far away from the fine art aspect. And I know it's come around. And I've heard a lot of good things that it has kind of turned around. But for myself now, it's like doing the custom automotive stuff or doing a painting like this.
Mm-hmm.
I get to have personal relationships with my clients now, my collectors.
Yeah.
And I'm building a dream for them. I mean, whether it's their van, their custom hot rod, their Harley Davidson. And, you these things travel all over the country. And thousands of people are seeing them all the time. And they last a lifetime because they're heirlooms. They're going to give them to their kids.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it's a whole nother level from an artist's point of view when you have this literal long-term relationship with somebody who's a client of yours that you get to communicate with them, build a story, and this painting now becomes a manifestation of their lives, their dreams, their fantasy world that they want to be in. That's pretty much the
It's
best.
an endless gift. Like it's just an endless gift for them. That's fantastic.
It is really nice. So I got right now a flaming skull and crossbones. I assume that is a hood of one of the other images we have here.
That's the radiator bracket underneath the 55 Chevy hood.
Seriously?
Oh my god.
When you open the hood, that's on the radiator and the fan bracket.
Oh,
now
wow.
that 55 Chevy, do you have the pictures of the 55 Chevy up?
I'm about to. Let me.
He's just got the skull right now, but we'll look at the 55.
You want the engine block?
There should be some shots, looking down at the hood, and it says SEMA on it.
Got it.
And I'll tell you what's on that.
Yeah, this one's sweet. I really like this one a lot. Okay, it should be up on the screen here.
Oh shit, that's amazing.
There it is.
So this is owned by a car collector called Joe Mealy, and his family history was moonshine running. And he went by his.
That's crazy.
Oh yeah. So his grandfather, great grandfather, I believe, or grandfather, Dr. and Mrs. Mealy, and they used to make their own secret blend. And so he wanted to do a tribute to the whole moonshine and running days. So on the hood, you have on the left side the copper the still. And then on the right, you have the oak collecting barrel. You have the car looking like it's ran through a still and exploded. So you have all of this moonshine flames coming up the side. Now, what else would you have in a moonshiner still at the time? You'd have money because, they're doing a lot of loot. They're pulling the money. on the fenders, you'll see $20 bills that actually they're hand done, actual size. They are from real 1955 issued serial numbers. The actual serial numbers are on it. The only thing that's not truly, I guess, counterfeit is the fact that I put myself as the Secretary of Treasurer. My name.
Okay.
And the owner's listed as the treasurer or whatever. It's the treasurer of the Secretary of State.
That's amazing.
I got the one kind of diagonal view for you.
Yep. On the sides of it is portraits of the builders of the car from Ravenwood Customs. And those guys down in Florida, I had portrait photographs of each of them, and I had to do real portraits. And I did them on a wanted poster that looks like it's burned and singeing as it's blowing down the side of the car.
Yeah, I see it over there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I absolutely love how the undercoat is all pitch black, and it looks like the flame is trying to drag and cling as the car's moving with the blue at the start. That's elegant. That's just beautiful.
It had to go over those. That double tier bumper is a very rare bumper too, so I had to come up with the flames going over that. That was on a very rare few kind of vehicles. Now that particular vehicle, believe it or not, they haven't even tubbed that. He kept it all original. The firewall hadn't been modified.
Wow.
But he dropped a 1,500 horsepower Shafarov engine in it with a supercharger. Hey, that was fun driving that through downtown Las Vegas. That was so cool.
Did you say 1,500?
1,500 horse. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. And the interior is as magnificently done as everything else is. But that car was on the History Channel. It was on Everything You Need to Know About SEMA in January this year. They did just kind of a cool segment where I explained, all the difference. And one of the things about these builds is car collectors, or anybody for that matter, enthusiasts of all kinds, they love a story that's personal. When you anybody can do a car kit, drop an LS motor in, and take a 1970 Chevelle or even a Mustang or whatever, and just basically put a set of wheels on it, drop it, and flip it for money.
Mm-hmm.
But the builders that build specific to their own unique history, their family, a legacy, a tribute vehicle. A lot of the rat rods are done that way. They're all one of a kind things. They're hand crafting. That's why you see the success of all those television shows on the different channels, because it's that one of a kind uniqueness. And that's what we're seeing right now. Your generation is probably the first generation to bring back craftsmanship. Look at the IPs and all the beer, the custom beers and stuff, right?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
When you think about it, prior to that, everything was commercial, mass market, efficiency, blah, blah, blah. But you guys, that's what we saw happening. We started seeing this. No, we want to see what can you do the hard way. We don't want to see it. We don't care what the end result is as much as we care, but it's equally important to us to see the process.
Yeah, see the effort.
I always compare.
Everybody wants the authentic connection now. They want to feel a personal connection to the creator instead of this distance. So.
Yeah, even so much as like sourdough bread is becoming a thing now.
I love sourdough bread. I'm all about it.
Yeah.
Gourmet sourdough bread, not a problem. No, listen, guys. Unless you got a question, I wanted to show you something.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's roll.
So back in the day when I was doing cards for Vampire: The Eternal Struggle. This is 1994 now, so I promised I'd give you some inside stuff that not a lot of people knew about or didn't remember. So Wizards of the Coast got a lot of flack for certain cards that were considered anti-Christian.
Yes.
Okay, so there this particular card, and I'm gonna bring it into the camera a little closer.
Malice is gonna eat this up. He's gonna love this.
Oh yeah, just a little. Yep, right about there. It looks like it's focused.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Hands up. Yeah.
So, telepathic misdirection shows a Nosferatu repelling the cross. This card was one of the several cards that got featured on the Pat Robertson 700 Club in 1994, where Pat went on to say how it's companies like this and cards like this that are destroying our young people today, converting them to the dark side, the demons.
Seduction of the innocent.
Oh, yeah, corrupting the innocent. And then it said, he reads the bottom. It says, I strongly recommend you avoid buying any artwork from this artist here, Edward Beard. And he names me. So I've got my website, which is phenomenal. I had log files, right? After that broadcast, my website crashed because it got hit with so many people visiting my site. It was the greatest PR thing I had ever had happen.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so that it was like I'm like, it's a vampire. Have you not seen Hammer Horror, Pat? Really, Pat? What the frick? He goes, well, and his argument was that in all of those movies, the vampire eventually dies from the cross. He's not successful at repelling it.
Jesus,
now here we have an image that successfully repels the cross.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how much research you have to do to get that offended about something on a card?
Jesus.
Like, what orbit, does that card appear for him? It's like, that is amazing.
The early
didn't do
90s
that research. Some staffer brought it to him, and it's the first time he saw it, and he got all pissed off.
Oh, okay, fair.
Oh my
Well,
god.
think about the time period. I'm pretty sure Interview with a Vampire had come out that year, right?
Oh,
Is that
that was
94?
it. Yeah.
There was a lot of
Let's do a
discussion.
segment on vampires. It's like, okay.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
Sure.
oh yeah. And this was not much different from what they did in the 70s with D&D.
Yeah.
Yeah, Satanic
Some
Panic.
kids
Yep.
set up a deal in a sewer that looked like an altar with a sacrifice, and then from that point on, every kid in the 70s that played D&D was clearly looking to sacrifice animals.
Totally. Totally.
But the other thing,
and I know every nerd wearing leather pretending to be a vampire was a full-on Satanist.
Oh, 100%.
That was there to
Absolutely.
destroy
Without
the
a
college
doubt.
campus.
Yeah, we got a lot of that, didn't we?
oh yeah, those
Remember
were
the street
days.
preachers on campus that would come out and just like harass us all the time? Oh.
No. The best is when we did live action role play,
Mhm.
and we were all dressed up as our vampire characters, and the floor underneath us was the Korean Christian student
Yes.
organization
Yes.
that lost their minds watching us like go get burgers after we were done.
Oh my
forgot
god,
about
that's
that.
awesome.
I totally forgot about that.
You would have thought that Guar had moved in the
Yep.
floor above. It was just a bunch of people in trench coats. That was it.
Oh my god, Guar. Oh,
yeah,
god.
oh yeah. Oh,
Okay,
Come dogs of the universe.
1992, Guar
yeah. Mhm.
shows up at the Pittsburgh Comic Con. This is phenomenal, right? So I this was like, I don't know, first or second year I'm at the Pittsburgh Comic Con. Maybe it was 93, but it was somewhere in those years. And I look on the program and I'm looking at the list and it says Guar, family friendly performance.
Oh, that's
So-
beautiful.
Oh.
So at that point, I'm thinking, I don't know. I'm like, okay, whoever Guar is. And so the guy who's with me at the show,
Amazing.
he says, I'm pretty sure that that's an adult related type thing. And so the show, the Comic Con's getting 20,000 people and tons of kids. So all of a sudden, the auditorium is packed solid. Here comes Guar with these costumes of rubber phallics and all kinds of other stuff. And they start doing their performance. You see a mass exodus of kids and parents running out the door, screaming. The cops come. They shut it down. Guar is squirting stuff into the audience.
Mhm.
They are.
Yes, they are.
There they are.
I can't remember what con it was, but I was a little dude, like 6 years old. I remember walking through the con halls, and Guar walked past, and they
Shut
had
the fuck
they
up.
had
I
grapefruits
know
and
this.
like nylons, hanging, as they do, and it literally smacked me in the face as I walked by. I got teabagged by Guar.
You came back by Guar. How have I never heard this? Oh my god.
I don't know, man. It just I don't know how I haven't told that story before, but
It's
there it is.
That is awesome. Yeah, no, that's some of the great stuff that you see at these conventions, and I can't wait till we can all get back to it. But man,
Amen.
that was, and I saw their comic books. They had a comic book that was out too, and that's
Apparently
when
that
I
was
went.
marked on.
This is, and I knew the promoter, and I said, "You've made a mistake, dude. You gotta fix it quick." And he was a mess after that. I mean, he was getting complaints. He was getting, oh my god.
Mhm.
One other thing about Vampire: The Eternal Struggle. So the guys out of Sweden, still kind of connected to White Wolf. They've picked up the license, and
CCP,
you were talking about,
right?
yeah.
Mhm.
You guys were talking earlier about what happened to cards that don't get produced or that don't get used.
Yeah.
Any of the stuff, by the way, that I did for Wizards of the Coast that didn't get used, I got paid for. That's the thing that was really odd. So-
That's
Good.
cool.
I was commissioned to do the work. the art directors approved it.
Mm-hmm.
It was paid for, and then all of a sudden never showed up. And this went on for like, I don't know, 3 or 4 different paintings.
Wow.
And that was because some of those paintings were very high profile, good playing cards. And that guy did not want me to have those. So he switched it over to his A-list artists. So I have some of those. I'll have to look them up. I don't remember what the names of there was that one that was a tail whip, something flame, whatever. They changed the names by the time they came out.
Right.
There was a couple in, there was so many blocks, but there was, what was it? Odyssey. There was some in Odyssey that never got published.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, the
But
one
this
over
is-
your left shoulder there, is that the one we were talking about before with the bird? It looks like it's down on the table. I'm assuming your left arm.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to bring that one up because that was the one we were talking about before. And I believe it's this one.
Paradise right there.
Yeah, there we
I got shredded with a fireball deck from that fucking bird.
go.
Oh.
Nice.
So this is the Ultra Pro playmat that I worked.
Nice.
Finally, Wizards of the Coast allowed us all to have a little bit of licensing rights. So I have some of these in stock, and I do a little doodle on them and stuff. The other thing,
Awesome.
speaking of one of my more popular, and you guys had a question about the Elder Dragons, or
Yeah.
you
Yes.
had
Mhm.
mentioned it.
Yes.
And
Yes, we
I have
did.
a story about how that came to be. But there's my nickel bolus.
Oh, that
Yes,
one.
it
yeah.
is.
Nickel bolus. And if you can see, you see the drawing. Let me see. There you
Yeah.
go. So I do these kind of doodles in the graveyard.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
Beautiful.
And it's a harpy type thing. So, I'll do
Oh, yeah.
that for an additional fee and all that stuff. But nickel bolus, Elder Dragons. So
Yeah, your boy Nickel is he's the first printed planeswalker, I think.
You might have
Because
been.
technically, like in the canon, Mishra and Urza are, but I don't think they even have cards per se that are them.
okay, so
So-
now I'm going to give you some dirt.
Oh.
I'm going to tell you how nickel bolus actually came to be.
Okay, good. I'm excited.
Okay, so 93, I'm at Gen Con, and they come up to me and they go, "Would you be interested now?" And they were like, "Well, I'll give you $100 and royalty the whole bit." I said, "Yes." I get home, and about a month and a half later, so it's like late August, September of 93, I get a call from Jesper, and he says, "All right, I'm going to be faxing you over the commission list. You get to have 10 cards for Legends." He said, "We may even use some of the cards for other sets, blah, blah, blah." He said, "I've checked off all the ones that have been taken. You take the next 10.
Mhm.
So listen to how this was art directed. There was no, "So what cards would you like? What kind of subject are you good at?" It was, "Here's the list," and it was a massive list. It was like 500
Sure.
plus. I got a little bit of the 15 or 20 or 30 of the cards before I could see what we commissioned. And then the whole, the list after that, I was supposed to take the next 10. Well, the way the description, the character names landed, or the commissions landed, it just happened to be that my number 10 ended at the 4th out of the 5 Elder Dragons, which is why I never did Vivictus Asmati.
Okay.
Oh.
No rhyme or reason. There was no artistic choice in it. It was just the way the roll of the dice. So people ask me that, "Why did you do 4 out of the 5?" I said, "Because it was the next. I was given 10. That's how it ended on the list."
That's where it was.
My God.
So
Wow.
now the description
Mhm.
of nickel bolts and the history, because I wanted to know a little more about it.
Mhm.
I call him up and I go, "All right, so tell me a little more about what you like with this character. What is this character's history? What's it all about?" He said, "Well, we're really kind of leaving it up to you to create it."
Whoa.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So I went, "Okay." Well, I said, "Give me some feedback." The only description I was given.
You made the Doctor Doom the Thanos of the Magic Universe.
Here's how it went down, man. He said to me, I guess what we really want is we want a kind of librarian dragon, ancient older dragon that's chilling out in his study. I went, done. So where's the lore? Where's the history? Okay, so now the next thing is I got Chromium. I've got Palladium Ores. I said, what's the relationship between Palladium Ores, Chromium, and Arcady Sabbath with this guy, Nicol Bolas? He goes, well, there really isn't any relationship per se. these characters represent certain kind of, they're elder dragons, they're multiple colors. He said, Arcades, we're looking at Arcades as kind of an astronomer.
Mhm.
I said, okay. Palladium Wars is kind of like the badass child, the kind of the reject relative, if you will. He's the one that kind of hangs around in the demon. He's very demonic, and he's always eating people. This is what he does.
Right.
And then Chromium was basically the equivalent to Mechagodzilla. That's it.
Right.
I was told Mechagodzilla. So so I did this. The set comes out, and then years later, I see them trying to retroactively create a lore of a planeswalker. There was no such thing as planeswalker when I was.
No, I know.
Right.
I came back into it, and somebody's like, "Well, that's a planeswalker card." It's like, the fuck is a planeswalker card? Get that out of here! And they're like, "You can kill it." I'm like, "I can't. It's dead."
Yeah.
Oh my god.
7/7 flying. So the Elder Dragon was created to look like he was a mellow, chilled. He wasn't some omnipotent, unkillable god. He was a chillax.
Crazy. I mean, he looks
Intellectual.
nothing like the original artwork now.
No,
But like
not anymore.
they made, I don't know if you're staying current with blocks, but about a year ago or 2 years ago, they did War of the Spark, and it was their Avengers Endgame, and it had like more planeswalkers than any set, and the whole arc of the story is all of them are trying to kill Nickel. That's it.
Yeah,
That's
I know. I heard about it. So there's a legal reason behind why the character doesn't look like the one I created.
Oh my!
Do I have to say any more?
No, that makes sense.
That does definitely make a lot more sense.
So since I owned back in those days, we maintained copyright.
Right.
Yeah. So there's my contract had a maintaining of copyright, and I did create the conceptual look of that character based on limited information. Basically, an old elder dragon sitting in his study reading books. Period. So with that little bit of input, and I create this character, and the character goes out and it goes into play and all this stuff. Years later, they want to own copyright exclusively, and I went, well, you got to still pay me royalty because my original contract says every time you use that likeness, you got to pay me a royalty.
Right.
Well, you don't have to pay me the royalty if you recreate
the likeness. Okay.
No, and if you reinvent, now that was a good part of the reason. The other part, I would have had an argument for that, copyright wise, and for contractually, you're using my image, blah blah blah, 2.5% royalty. But when they redid the law, and I shouldn't redid, they created it for the first time and completely redesigned that character to be nothing like mine. Well, then that was it. The last time I made royalties on that card, that character, was when they did Time Spiral, when they reprinted it.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
That's been long time ago. But so there's a little history. So Elder Dragons, there was no rhyme or reason to it. Now I'm going to tell you the pictures that you see on those cards right now, those Elder Dragon cards, which I don't have in front of me here. Those Elder Dragon cards were preliminary colored pencil sketches. What? They were not the finals.
Oh, man.
So they were done with marker and colored pencil.
Shut up.
On my kitchen table in about a half an hour. So I'm given this commission, and I all of them for that matter. All the legend pieces that I did were nothing more than preliminary color comps. They were color sketches, color comps. So I submitted them, right? I took photos of them, and back in those
days, is this what you guys want? So I can do the finish, and they're like, it's done.
Cool, right. I'll take it.
So I sent it in, and about a month or a little over 30 days goes by, and I'm like, this is kind of weird that I haven't heard back about any of these pieces. So I leave a message. Finally, after back and forth, I get in touch, and I said to Jesper, I said, dude, I said, what do you think of those pieces? I said, I've been waiting for the approval to move forward to the final paintings. And he goes, oh, no, they're good the way they are, man. We're cool with it. I'm like,
you're like, no.
But now keep in mind, this is the first time I'm illustrating for this company. I'm not about to push it. And at the same time, I'm still not 100% sure this company's going to be around long. I am amazed that they got, the first sets up, and I'm like, all right, whatever. I mean, they were pretty tight colored pencil inks. I wanted to do a decent color scheme, but they all took me each about a half hour to 40 minutes. They were really quick, off the fly, everything. Rogar of Carekeep, Princess Lucrezia, Cyclopean Mummy. It was done on a bus. I was on a bus trip in the
Oh my
backseat
God.
of a bus. You know, so
You
Now-
were on a moving bus when you made
moving
that?
bus when I did Cyclopean Mummy. So here's the thing.
Wow.
I really honestly never thought they would ever mount to anything because I'm looking at these things as little comp sketches. I'm doing major paintings at this point in my life.
Mhm.
I sure as heck am not thinking. So I go to this small Comic Con Boston Comic Con is what it is.
Mhm.
So I'm at the Boston Comic Con and this guy comes up to me. This is before Legends gets put out. I don't remember what month of the year that it was finally published. About a year, 8 months later, 9 months after that. So maybe June or July of the following year of '94, something like that.
Okay.
Maybe.
Mhm.
Okay.
So this was a summer convention. I'm at it, and I have those drawings in a binder. And I'm like, along with all this other art that I'm selling. And this guy comes over and he said, so have you heard of this game Magic the Gathering? I go, oh yeah, I've heard of it. I said, I just did 10 pieces for it. I said, I did get to do the finals. I said, but I do have the color comps for them. And I said, they're real quick sketch things. He goes, well, let me see them. He looked at it. He goes, all right, well, how much you want? And I'm thinking, oh my God, it's a half hour's work. Give me $250. This is 1994.
Oh my. Oh
This is
my.
1994. I said, just give me $250. The guy buys all except for one Elder Dragon.
Mhm.
The guy still owns them to this day. He's a very well-known collector.
Oh boy.
And now they're worth like $30,000, $50,000, right?
Oh.
Yeah, the chat was asking if they were still around. So yeah, there's your answer.
Yeah, they've almost, you know what the amazing thing is? Almost every one of my originals that I've had of Magic stuff, out of the 120 plus cards, they almost all have stayed with their original owners. And we're talking 25 years later, and they're still with their original. Every now and then you'll get one or two that I think have been resold. The guy that owns Birds of Paradise, Mike Guptill, who put on the show's professional event services,
Uh-huh.
he used to do all the big Magic tournaments in Ohio and Michigan and Pennsylvania. He had me as a guest there, and he owned that piece since day one. And you know, he's had multiple offers. I don't even think 50,000, whatever the hell it has been. He will not sell it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That is tremendous.
So in my lifetime, I've missed out so many times. I'm bad investor.
So I'm going to put some art up here real quick. I've been kind of cycling through a few of the pieces. And this is the part of the show where I end up needing a break for just a moment. So I'll be back. You guys go ahead and keep entertaining the crowd, and I'll be right back with you. Sorry about that.
Bye. Oh my God. I have your Zurin. Help me out. He's
Zurin
Tim. He's
Spellcaster.
Zurin Spellcaster. I have
Timmy.
him.
Timmy the number 2.
Timmy 2. Oh my God. And I had a lot of Fallen Empires. I had Pike Knight. Oh God.
Well,
And
there was Icatian Infantry, Javelineer, Icatian Javelineer.
Yes.
There was Zealot, something Zealot.
Yes, I have the Zealot.
You have the Zealot.
Well,
Okay.
I probably gave it away a long time ago with a whole set of cards like an idiot.
Yeah.
When I went off to college, and I was giving them to a young kid, and I swear to God, I wish I could get them all back right now. I don't think I have anything of any kind of cash flow, but yeah,
there
the
was
first
high value then. There was Icatian.
no.
I think a money changer. There was a money changer.
I have the Money Changer. I had that guy. Oh my God, this is so cool.
Oh, there was the Combat Medic.
Yes, I had Combat Medic too.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh, and then there
So,
was Infantry, Icatian Infantry.
So when you guys, so you worked wherever. Was there ever a time that you or any of the other artists shared studio space with this production, or were you guys all on your own islands?
No. So, well, I was located in Rhode Island, so I was on the East Coast. You can't get any further away from Washington State, where rented, where Wizards was. I heard that over at Wizards of the Coast, and of course the original groups there were more artists that were local to that area on the West Coast. On the East Coast, Melissa Benson lived in Connecticut. I was in Rhode Island, next neighboring state.
That's awesome.
Jeff Menges was in New York, I think. Mark Poole was from South Carolina, I think it was.
Wow.
Wow.
So we weren't
Really spread out.
We weren't really together. Yeah, we were pretty far apart. I think the only time we saw each other was at Gen Con every year, and they were, I was an advocate like my whole life, right? I mean, you got my story here. So you know that, I've kind of been shafted in the art community and this, that, and the other. Always been an outcast, always been an outsider. Mm-hmm. Well, mainly I don't take crap, so when things go wrong, like a contract's not fulfilled or someone violates shit, I don't sit quietly because my attitude is I'd rather not work than work for nothing.
Right.
Facts.
I hold people accountable, and that's not politically savvy. This goes back to my never learning the lesson about winning the battle and losing the war.
This is you and the superintendent all over again. This is the same thing.
Yeah. So what goes along with that? Like, so in the 90s, when Wizards of the Coast was giving us shit, they weren't paying us royalties. It was a screensaver deal, right? So, I'm calling them for months on end and going, hey, guys, you got to pay up on this. You use this thing on a licensed product. It says in our contract you're supposed to pay. You got to come clean on it. Tell us what's going on. And they didn't. They got an attorney, and their attorney told me to go pound sand, which is where I sued them. So I'm myself. I went and filed a lawsuit against Wizards of the Coast for not paying royalty. Well, you do that, you get blacklisted.
Right.
Okay. So what happens to the other fellow artists, who, by the way, up until this point, I'm being their advocate, and they're like, "Oh, this is not right. We're not getting paid." I think thanks a lot, Ed, for coming out there and speaking on our behalf at every convention. I'm up at seminars, up on the panel, and I'm verbally talking about how Wizards of the Coast is screwing us, which is bad PR for them. So, and again, I'm like, look, I gave them 8 months to make the decision. They made the decision. Now it's like, you know what? Let the world know. This is your great company that's screwing around with the artists. Well, when that started, the word started to get out. Wizards of the Coast was basically doing interesting communications that other art directors would come to me from other companies and specifically tell me they're basically being told, if you want to continue to come to this convention, don't hire Ed Beard. Yeah. So it got to that point, and then what I found out from other artists, I started to notice, these same artists that were like, all ready to have me defend them, were kind of now giving distance. They were like, "Oh, well, Ed, we got to be careful hanging around with you. It's going to bring us some bad heat. We can't afford to not be hired, blah, blah, blah." And I was just, which is at the point where I started to branch away from that, 2004-05. Actually, I'm sorry, that was 97, 98. That's why you see
that was that early?
Yes. If you see, you'll see a gap of about a year and a half, and I think it was 97, 98, that you don't see any work from me. And that's during the year we were litigating.
Gotcha.
I mean, I went through depositions. I mean, they paid big money to defend themselves against me. It cost me about $20,000, but it cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars to defend themselves against me, And they hired the most expensive attorney and law firm in the state of Rhode Island, too. So, and it's like and here's the thing that killed me, too. At the end, the whole damn thing, at the end, we're in the stenography thing, and their lawyer comes in. And after my attorney has just been saying, look, will you just provide us the royalty report? We just want to see what the deal is. Why are you fighting us like this? They throw the royalty. Finally, after 8 months to a year of litigation, countless money that they spent, they finally break down and say, fine, here it is. And it was like, if the artist had actually gotten paid what they were supposed to get paid, they would have gotten paid like $4. And I went,
what?
So my attorney was pissed off, and he goes,
oh, no.
You fought us for a year and spent $400 an hour at the time was what this law firm was costing Wizard Hasbro, right?
Oh, my God.
And I'm like, why are you doing this? And they said, because if we didn't, it'll set a precedent that will apply to many other things.
Yep.
So in other words, backpacks, jackets, all these things that they were producing that were considered under the contract non-game related products. Now, not for nothing, guys. Why do you have a clause in a contract that says we will pay you X amount of royalty if we produce non-game related products? Last I checked, a jacket is not necessary to play the game.
Oh, wow.
A screensaver that has an image bouncing around to keep you back in the day when computers needed screensavers, right?
Yep.
And so that's what the problem was. I was going to open up a can of worms if they had agreed. So what they did, so they settled in a way. Basically what they did is they said, look, you want to get back into the industry and work for a little longer? Let's let this go away.
Wow.
Because up to that point, I really had been blackballed. I mean, I couldn't get work from any of the publishers that were in
all
the
that over a $4 price point. That's like the plot of Trading Places, is what.
Well, it was a $4 play. It was that particular product was $4, but who knows how much the other
Right.
other royalty products were, So this is the history that is all documented. I've got every damn stenography report and the whole thing. But it all got me a lot of heat that alienated a lot of artists because they were like, hey, man, we can't, I appreciate what you did, but man. And I'm like, you're backstabbing.
Thanks, but I can't talk to you.
Exactly. So I once again was on the outside, once again the outcast, and I just went, you know what? This is my comfy place. I'm happy this way. I'm going to keep doing what I do best, which is inspiring young people. I'm going to keep calling out things that are wrong. I wound up becoming the art director for Z-Man Games briefly. I did some contract work. I actually paid for all the art for Camelot Legends. That was my,
Really?
So I was doing very well. I was doing, as a businessman, I had licenses with jigs. Oh, do you have the pictures of the puzzles?
I just cycled through them a second ago, but let me bring it back up.
Yeah. So what I found out...
Z-Man is Pandemic, right?
Z-Man got bought out by some bigger company, and I don't remember who.
Okay.
This is Moon Song is one I got up here.
Yeah. So examples like that is, a lot of these, this is the biggest problem, and this is one of the pitches that I used to get paid to go to colleges for, was that you never plant all your eggs in one basket as an artist, as a craftsman of any sort. My biggest lesson that I tell everyone, and I say, look, the reason I had the luxury to take on Wizards of the Coast and go, too bad, was because that wasn't my only source of income. In fact, Wizards of the Coast, at the best year they ever had, was only worth about 5% of my income. People don't realize it. They think that somehow Wizards of the Coast, if you worked for them, you were making huge money. We were getting paid $400 to $800 by the time I was leaving. I think just after I left, it was $1,000 a card. And you were only getting, in 2004 and 5, maybe 8 cards a year. I'm sorry, but how do you live on $8,000?
Whoa. I would have never imagined that.
Out.
So they're handing it to you like, we're going to let you do 8 cards. Like that in and of itself is such an in.
Oh, my
God. I guess. So, between that and whatever else scrappings you could get, it was never going to be a career financially secure environment. Right. So right out of the hole, I think by 95, 96, the most money I ever made was Fallen Empires, because the royalties for Fallen Empires, because they produced so much of it, because you were paid based on production, was pretty decent. I think it was like 14 grand is what I made in total. Everything else, I was lucky if I made 2 grand, 3 grand. I mean, in royalties. And royalties stopped at Ice Age. So anything after Ice Age, there's no royalties. So, you're talking maybe $6,000 a year. I had to do other things, of course. Yeah. So I got into licensing. I started contacting jigsaw puzzle companies, the calendar companies. Even in Europe, I started doing calendars for the German and the Swedish market. This is a German one.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
Calendar. And it's a humongous,
Can you bring it towards your face slightly? There you go. And there's like a glare right on the front. There, perfect.
That's
awesome.
Beautiful.
Nice.
So,
hey, Dave wants to know what year you did Moonsong.
2009. Now that picture, Moonsong, oh my God. That is the most ripped off image that has ever been on eBay or Amazon. And I'm serious about that when I tell you that, because I had to litigate.
Can you bring that one back up so you see it again?
Yeah, bring up Moonsong.
So it just gets copy paste floated around to everything.
So what happened with Moonsong is I worked for the Mountain T-shirt company early on in 1999 and 2000. I got hired for licensing, and they picked, I think, 3 or 4 of my images. One was this one. This one here, Bravely Misplaced.
Perfect. Yeah.
So this wound up on a T-shirt in a black and white version.
Yeah, I showed the shirt earlier, I think.
And it became, I think by 2002 or 3, it was their best-selling black and white line fantasy shirt at the Mountain. The Mountain was in every truck stop and all these, every time you go to truck stop, you see fantasy stuff on the line. So I became one of their best-selling licensed artists, and they I think they took on about 10 pieces for me at one point.
Huh.
So I was doing really good with licensing, and then Moonsong came out. I painted Moonsong, which the basis of that story of the Moonsong painting is the wolf is a dragon wolf. The wolf is a timber wolf, the actual wolf. And I looked up the legends and lore of early American Indians and what the wolf stood for them, which is the white wolf. The timber wolf stands for the transcending of the spirit into the next realm. Okay. Then I looked up ancient Aztec and Incan, and I found out that the South American Indian cultures believed that the dragon / Quetzalcoatl and the wolf would get together on the winter solstice and sing to the moon.
Oh, that's
Wow.
awesome.
Huh.
And I thought, nobody's painted this. I got to do it.
Definitely not.
So, because, I mean, come on, dragons and wolves, the two biggest things in the United States for licensing.
Yeah.
So I put it out. It took off huge. They made figurine statues out of it, T-shirts, puzzles, as you see.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you get to that point, and it's now on, Amazon, and these things are being produced overseas, guys. Think about this.
Mm-hmm.
Those files are sent, not the T-shirt, but to the calendar printing companies and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
They got swiped by some of the, it was Alibaba. So,
okay.
yeah,
Mhm.
Alibaba, which is AliExpress. So Alibaba and their mass manufacturing, some manufacturing company out of China, decided we're going to produce them on collector tins, T-shirts to compete with the Mountain, backpacks, sneakers, and over 144 different products.
Oh my God.
So this image, I got hammered one year. This was about 4 years ago. You'll see it all on my Facebook, actually, if you go back far enough, where I was submitting thousands. There was more than 1,100 DMCAs that I had to file it took me a month to file them all. It took 2 to 3 weeks before Amazon actually took them down. Within days later, they were back up again.
Wow.
At that point, so at that point, I said, this has got to stop, because all that Amazon's doing is making profit off of knocked off stolen goods. And this is bullshit. They're not honoring DMCA, because part of the DMCA is when you have repeat offenders, and we tracked the location of where these wholesale manufacturing was done, because I got them. I bought the product, and I could track them back to Alibaba.
Uh-huh.
And I knew we knew at the time Alibaba was doing a deal where they were going to express distribute from China to the U.S., and the U.S. government blessed it at the customs office. So come to find out, at the same time, National Geographic's photographer did an image that was also getting used by the same company that was knocking me off. They filed a lawsuit that I piggybacked with, because I consulted them. And I said, look, guys, this is happening to me too. And basically, National Geographic lost, because the judge ruled that even though these people were repeat offenders, that Amazon knew full well that this same company that was manufacturing these knocked off goods was just changing IDs and reselling it. And the reason they knew that is because guess who the payee is? They're not changing their bank account or their wire transfer every time they change a name when they get hit with the DMCA.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right.
So the ability to track this was there. But the judge ruled that content delivery networks, CDNs, or anybody like Amazon or eBay, like a platform, can never be responsible for merchandise that is sold on their platform.
Oh.
So I could not protect. So all I did, I'll tell you how I beat them. I have an army of fans on my Facebook, 30,000 altogether between my 4 different Facebook pages. I put out a video call to all of them to hit every single one, to do a search under Moonsong, Wolf Dragon Moon, and you'll come up with all the illegal selling knockoff products. And I made sure that my fans knew the only legitimate one, which was the Mountain T-shirt company, and that there was no other product that was permitted. They hammered them with bad reviews like no one's business, and then they started getting blocked. So Amazon created an algorithm to block every one of them after. So in other words, if you post, if you're someone that's going up as a consumer on Amazon, and you post the same paragraph more than, I think it was 7 times in reviews, you got blocked.
Gotcha.
But I had over 1,500 negative reviews lambasted against this Chinese and Vietnamese company, and they never touched me again since.
That's awesome.
So that's how I successfully knocked their butts. But legally,
awesome.
I've never been able to. We're all in a battle. I'm on the Copyright Alliance team, which we talk about how do we change copyright law, and we were getting close. In the last 4 years, there was actually, you might have read about it, how they were trying to go after specifically China for trying to prevent the knockoff items that were coming into the U.S. that were killing us, artists, and everybody else. Unfortunately, it did not gain any ground in the Senate. It's still waiting. And the only thing
Lava Axe, what that is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm cycling through some pieces
you're watching
here.
Lava Axe?
I'm a blue player. No offense, Ed. I fucking hate that card, man.
So if you're a blue player, that means you must know my Battle of Wits.
I do know Battle of Wits. Battle of Wits is sweet. At core, I'm a counterspell guy. So that's where my heart lives. But yeah,
I love Blue.
badass.
You know, out of all the character illustrations that I got to do, I love the Blue the most. The Blue gave me the most creative freedom, I think. A lot of the birds, like Raven's familiar.
Yeah.
Raven's familiar, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Kingfisher.
Awesome. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be another Audubon piece.
That's right. That'd be like, we don't like Audubon.
So, just checking in here, just to make sure we're all good. We are in our last 5 minutes of the scheduled time. We can go longer if you'd like, because it seems like we got lots of material still. But it is the end of the show
How
time.
about some questions that you guys may want to ask about? You know,
Sure. So we'll open it up there to the chat a little bit too. So if you guys have any questions, now is a good time to kind of get those in.
Earlier up, somebody asked, I want to say it was Dustin, if you played Magic.
Oh yeah. I saw that one earlier.
the life of an artist is kind of like a house painter who could never paint his own house.
Right.
I never got a chance to play games, guys. I was on the road 11 months of the year.
Yeah.
I was cut, but I did actually get to play. It was at a professional event service tournament in Michigan.
Okay.
And the way this particular hand was played, I was up against a 10-year-old. And
Okay.
I'm trying to think. I think the set. Oh, it was one of the Urza blocks. Okay, so there was a pre-release, and it was I think it was Urza's Legacy. And so I was only allowed to play with my cards that I had ever illustrated. Only. I had to create a deck out of only my cards that I had done up to that point. The thing is, I had done no land cards. I had done artifacts, but I had no mana.
So, that's rough. That is rough.
So so think about this, guys. I had minimal. So they gave me some generic mana that I could use, but my cards were all big hitters, like 7/7s. I couldn't get anything out of the gate. This kid was beanie decking me.
So he's just like
pew
pew pew pew pew.
Oh. He wiped me out in like 4 rounds. I don't know, 5 rounds tops.
Oh my god.
Oh,
So
geez.
it was
Kills
hilarious.
are harsh. Speed kills are harsh.
I have a picture, actually. Someone took a photo of me playing this kid, and this kid was trashing me. It was awesome. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So those of you at home don't see my camera right now, but Dad's over here popping into the shot in our Discord call, at
Is
least.
that Dave?
That is.
Yeah,
So,
Dave is with us.
I can't hear you, but I'll translate it.
Hey, just wanted to say thank you. Great 2 hours here. Really loved it. Great stories,
Thank you,
man.
Dave. Thanks for reaching out to me, man. Your son's a great guy. He's got a great team. Very diversified. It's awesome.
He said, thank you so much. You've got a great team, great song. Thanks for reaching out. It's a great show. Lots of awesome stuff there. Yeah. Thank you, Dad. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Let's see. Do we have any other questions out there? It looks like Broadcastle was asking, did you know Quentin Hoover?
I did know Quentin, yes. He passed away a few years back. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Let's see. We'll cycle through a couple more of these shots. So any of you guys still have any last second questions, go ahead and get those in the chat. In the meantime, I'm going to drop the link to your Patreon again.
Thank you. Oh, yeah. So
Make
speaking
sure
of
there's
that,
Mm-hmm.
if you go to my Facebook pages, which you can look up Fantasy Artist Ed Beard Jr. or my own personal page, Ed Beard Jr., you'll see all the different Facebook Lives that I had done over the last several years, whether it's some of them I would do black and white renderings and drawings live. Sometimes I do gold and silver illuminations around mats where even some of the magic stuff, I would do the illuminations around the mats. And other times automotive. Well, I did that as long as I could, but with Facebook's algorithm lately and also the way they're censoring everything and shutting everything down, I can't do it. I can't even have music that I have official license. My daughter cannot play her own music without getting the bot to knock her down.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we run into that a lot.
Yeah, it's getting real frustrating for all of us. And honestly, I just feel that a different platform that would actually maybe make me a little money too would have been a better one. So someone said, Ed, you need to go on Patreon. You're giving quality instruction. You're doing art instruction. You're doing communication about all kinds of things. You're mentoring. You should really take that onto a Patreon platform. So I did. It launched November 1st. I've got, I think I have about 40 members right now, 40 Patreons.
Oh, good. That's awesome.
So I haven't really promoted it much yet. I'll be going to broadcast live towards the end of this month. And I'm actually going to be doing two things. I'm going to be doing some broadcasting on this painting where I'll be doing step by step. But also I have a 2012 Mitsubishi Evolution race car coming in that I'm doing a Japanese fire and Japanese ice dragon on. The whole line.
Oh, very cool.
That's amazing.
And that's going to be part of my Patreon. Now I offer a lot
Red Baron 102 says talk about Zombie Santa.
Oh, yes. Zombie Santa was one of my Facebook lives. It went on for 3 days, 4 hours at a time. There is a picture that I sent you of me doing the painting of the Zombie Santa.
Oh boy.
Did we just see it?
I might have.
I look like I'm wearing a red and green vest with a bowler hat.
Yes,
that's
the one. Saw it.
Yep,
you flipped through it already. That was awesome. That's
nice.
Santa. I thought it was just like a necromancer. That was awesome.
Yeah.
It's if you look at it, it's a Draugr. It's actually a Draugr.
Oh,
yeah. Very sweet.
Yes, basically the minions of Krampus.
Oh my God, that looks awesome.
Yeah.
So I did
the runes.
Yes, and they are actual legitimate runes.
Of course they are.
Yeah. And the whole story behind that character is, there's a naughty list that he's holding. And so when I did the drawing from scratch in front of the canvas, it was a blank canvas. I mean, I literally took, and I did it with pen. So it's,
oh my God.
Then it's airbrushed and finished off with painting. It's both brushwork. I decided to do a really different technique for the hell of it. I said, guys, we're going to do everything with permanent. It was one of those exercises where you can't make a mistake. But I offered at the end of the broadcast, I offered the painting to give away. It was a raffle. So the only deal was everyone that came online had to like the post, comment, and share it.
Nice.
I had over 7,000 people tuned in during the 4,000. I was crashing Facebook repeatedly.
That's
it
fantastic.
got shared 40,000 times. It was ridiculous. It's still on my Facebook page.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So we had a winner. The gentleman who actually won it, and now mind you, we're talking, I don't know how many hundred people. I had to put their names in that little digital electronic online wheel, that you do, random selector, whatever.
Yeah.
The guy that owned it, wound up winning it, actually lives only about 3 streets away.
What are the odds?
Yeah. And he's a big gamer. He has his own gaming channel, I think he does. Oh, he does Magic. He does with Magic the Gathering. It's called 570 Gaming. His name is Luke Fox. And what he does, he opens packs. He does, that opening of packs.
Unpacking. Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Did he know he lived 3 streets down from you?
So let me tell you the history of him. The reason he even knew that I was broadcasting was because when my daughter was in high school, this is going back 13 years. He was 2 years older than her, but he was in her art class. And I used to come to the school and I would do art seminar. Now, now we're going back to 2003, 2004. I went in the class because I used to always go to the book fair. You guys remember book fair?
Yeah, book fair's the best.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So book fair was from kindergarten, first grade until 6th grade. And because my kids were in the school here, I would go in and I would give away free posters to all the kids for all the grades. I'd give hundreds of posters away.
Oh, nice.
And so this kid remembered me, and somehow he fell upon me on Facebook because he remembered when I was there. I guess it was 2004, 2005. I had just done Ravnica. Maybe it was earlier than that. Might have been the Mirrodin set. He loved my Birds of Paradise. And when he found out that the artist that did Magic lived in his town, that was it. But I hadn't heard from him or seen anything from him until this thing was working. Yeah.
He was a lurker.
I guess.
The whole time. You never knew.
Yeah.
Small world.
He won it. And so on my Patreon, I'm going to be doing similar things. I'm doing drawing giveaways where I'll do drawings. Different tiers of the Patreon. You get to have original black and white drawings. Either way, T-shirts. You get these things. These are artist proof cards. They're white on the back.
Oh, nice.
So what I do with some of these, I have many proof cards that I haven't signed. I draw pictures on the back of them. And so in my Patreon, I'll be doing live demonstrations of this and giving them away.
Oh, that's great.
Nice.
That is
You know,
great.
like raffle type things.
Yeah.
So there's the link again. Make sure you click that right now. So go over there, go click on it, at least take a look, and show some support. We really appreciate
Yeah, I mean,
that.
you can join in for $5 a month. At $5 a month, I think you can get the 10% off coupon for anything on my website, which is theedbeardjr.com. And you also will get access to, I mean, literally all my live broadcasts, which are
That's awesome.
3 to 4 hour long. And if you're an art student or you just like to see the creative process from everything from drawing, illuminations, canvas paintings, automotive thing, it's a pretty wide, diverse market.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're across the board. It's awesome.
There was one other thing. Since you guys are into role playing games, I created.
We are very much into them.
Just
Yes.
a wee bit. Just a wee bit. Yeah.
So I created an art card set a few years ago. Now these
nice.
characters. Take a look at the characters.
Okay.
This is
Nice.
the Earth Elemental.
Oh, nice.
You saw this one earlier, the Winter Spirit.
Yeah, I love that one. That was
It's
great.
beautiful.
This one here, the Great Act, which is basically
Nice.
an Earth Ent.
Oh, nice.
I have just about every character here. We have the Wizard Emissary, which is a messenger owl.
Nice.
Excellent. Excellent.
And then this one is one of my favorites. This is my fat, chubby dragon
Yeah,
chilling
that
out.
one's fantastic. I saw that one. That was great.
Oh.
So what I do with these cards is I draw on the back of them too, but these cards are available. And what I found a lot of my collectors who meet me at the Ren fairs and the Comic Cons do, they buy these and they use these as visual references while they're doing game night.
Oh.
They include them
Nice.
and they build a storyline and an adventure around some of these characters and include them
Nice.
in. So
Oh, it's
just
great.
fun.
That's fantastic.
Well, I mean, it goes to show the artwork in these games has really inspired a lot of people. Obviously, it's been a big inspiration to all of our stories that we told around the table, and we have a lot of people to thank, and you're one of them. So, thank you so very much for contributing your artwork. And
Thanks for giving us your time tonight. This was
absolutely,
amazing.
this has been wonderful. So,
I can go back in time and tell like 15-year-old me, by the way, you're going to talk to that guy someday.
Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. But one last thing, this is the last thing I'll say, because I think we covered
No, show us whatever you want.
yeah, whatever you
I
want.
forgot about this. This was
Oh, yes.
This was the Gathering book that Jeff Menges, and Full Steam Press produced.
Mhm.
This is the hardcover versions. I made a deal with Jeff, and I bought 100 copies exactly. And I said to him, the only deal is I'm going to buy these, but these are the only ones I'm going to draw in, and I'm going to number them out of 100.
Mhm.
So that's what it means. I won't draw in any others. So when people have their own books, I'll sign in them, but I'm not going to draw in them. And so what I do with these, and I showed Jeff earlier,
Mhm.
this is an example of one of the drawings. That's a
my
hand drawing right there.
Oh, that's gorgeous. Oh, that's perfect.
Oh, that's
So-
fantastic.
These are the kinds of things that are going to be available through the Patreon as well. So,
A lot of
Anyhow.
value packed in there.
yeah.
Are there any other links we should be putting out there and pointing people towards?
Well, if you guys want to see my automotive stuff exclusively, Airbrush by Beard, airbrushbybeard.com is how you can see that, because that's strictly automotive.
Mhm.
I think that's about it, because you guys have had the edbeardjr.com. So yeah, I mean, and I just want to let everybody know, especially anybody that may be an aspiring artist or someone that even, is involved in the industry or just wants to, be creative. And I do this every day of my life. And this is what all creative people, I don't care whether you're into music or into painting and drawing. And obviously, Levi, you do it every day in your life. We're very blessed to have the ability to see the world in a very different way than many of the people in the population. And when we have a gift, whether we have the auditory skill or the visual skill, I believe the greatest thing we can do, other than being on an air-sucking flesh bag and just do things for ourselves, right, is to make differences in people's lives. And when I'm at shows and conventions or Renaissance fairs, and I see somebody come in and that's, obviously an art student, and they're marveling at something, or just even, especially some of the elderly folks that I see, they're in their 60s and 70s and never pursued the career because they had to get a real job, and they're looking at this and you see there's a certain level of regret and they wish they had done it. My goal, and all of us as creative people's objective, is to find a way to inspire them to do that, to seize that moment. Because when you do that, and I've been very blessed in this respect, every time I've taken the time to do that, and I do it every day of my life, I find a way. It comes back to you tenfold. I find out 20 years later that I've had young people that I may have come across at a show that I didn't think the 20 minutes I spent, checking out their work and talking about some of the positive things they do would have made an ounce of difference. And some of them never really pursued it as a professional career, but it changes a person's life when someone who has established a certain level of success and that has made it to, I'm 40 years self-employed, and says, this person who's managed to get through all this craziness and succeed in that career that was not a very easy challenge is telling me that I'm worth something and I have merit and that I have achieved something myself. You can make literally a life-changing event happen. So I just feel like this is what is so tough for me this year, being locked in. As much as I love being on the road,
Tell me about it.
which is why I feel like the social media, these kinds of things, the Twitch, the Patreons, whatever it is, whatever social media we can find a way to communicate with. It's so crucial that we as creative people try to get through the muck, try to get through the political BS, and reach to the person's neutral creative zones. Give them something to feel positive about that isn't divisive.
Right.
A lot of people argue that as an artist, we are the people that have the platform that we can, have the political stake. I find that you can get a lot more accomplished and achieved by enriching someone's life in a non-divisive way, by somehow just giving them a little something to believe in. I know the people that have tuned into me and the people that have come to see me at these events and shows that they haven't this year. I got so many private messages that say, "Man, we really miss you, Ed. It was such a," and they're recognizing, and I look at this and I go, I take it for granted what an impact I may have had. And I just think if we stop and smell the roses a bit like that and recognize that we're very blessed, but we have a big responsibility to, just kind of share it. And there's no reason why you as an art teacher, me as a teacher, or whatever, that we can't just use positive reinforcement. This concept that
doesn't cost anything.
Exactly.
It is no skin off my nose to be nice instead of mean. And the impact is in a world of difference. I mean, your whole life is an example of the difference between those two approaches.
Yeah. And I mean, I might be a little bit of an exception because I was such a defiant child. But I knew a lot of my friends who did not pursue their dreams because there was no one strong in their life to just say, you're okay. And you know what? You're good at what you do. And you should believe in yourself. I was just one of these kids who was very objective. When I had that teacher telling me that crap all that years, I would sit back and I'd look at myself and go, I'd go to the retail store. I would look at the book covers. I would look at this. I would look at that. I would compare what I can do with that. And I would go, you know what? No, I don't suck. You're wrong. And that's what I try to get across to so many people. And no matter what age group they are, it's so important that you refresh your mind a little bit and just go, you know what? I don't need anyone to validate who I am or how good I am. I have to, one, believe in myself. I have to have objectivity. I have to be able to step outside myself to be improving in anything we do. We have 100%. To be able to hear from a different perspective. We need to get feedback and input from people on the outside. But the idea that, man, the glass is half empty when we start off is just it's a control mechanism.
It's damning. It's awful.
It really is. Yeah. It doesn't take
that's what I would say.
Doesn't cost you anything to just reach out to the humanity in your neighbor, and that's something a lot of us have forgotten. Day to day, this last set of 10 years or so, seems like we're getting further and further apart from one another. And if there's one thing that COVID's taught us is that we rely on one another, and when we miss each other, it's very evident. And be there for other people when you can.
Yeah, the creative, anyone that's creative, we're like the final frontier of neutral ground. I never thought in my life I'd ever say I was neutral. But we really are, because when you look at how severely divided in everything, from ideology and philosophy to everything, this world is so. I'm only a couple of years younger than your dad, and I mean we've been around 50 years adult life looking at things, right? And that's about 50 years of an adult comprehension.
Right.
And we're saying, wow, I've never seen it like this. I mean, I can remember the late 60s somewhat.
I can remember the only time,
Yeah, I mean, and I remember that divisiveness then to a certain extent, but even that does not compare. We have the technology, we have the outreach, we have this interconnection stuff, right? Which is making it that much worse. But what we've lost is the ability to rationalize, to find a common ground. It's like the humanity is being played so well. It's like this playbook of divide and conquer. And it's the creative people who question authority. We are the first. That's why, I have a good friend of mine who works for the FBI, but he was in CIA. And he often says to me, whenever I see him down in Florida, he'll say, you do realize that you guys are the ones we hate the most. You are the people, you go two ways. He says, because you buck the system, you reverse engineer everything, you question every bit of authority. And he says, you just don't follow anything. You have your own way of things. So you either go one or two directions. You either become philanthropic or you become a Hitler. And he said, you're always the ones that we profile. And that told me something. Oh yeah.
That's some serious bifurcation.
And he goes, the only thing that we have an advantage over is that most of you don't have enough confidence to rule the world.
Oh my God.
And he's not wrong.
He's not wrong. Yeah.
Think about how many creative people have a self-esteem issue.
Yeah.
So it's not by accident. It's not by accident that society and those pressures are in place, not to sound conspiratory, but this is really sociology. Is why it's like the whole thing is, get a real job. Because, man, when you're on the outside and you can be someone who can lead, whether you're a musician or artist, we are in the unique position to make major changes.
Yes.
And I just think that right now, more than ever, artists and creative people need desperately to not take sides, but to illustrate and bring forth the common ground. In order to do that, we got to stop. We can't be one side or the other. If you do that, you're just polarizing all over again. And you can be the grand champion for one side or the other, right or wrong, but you're going to miss out on all those opportunities of people who could have been in the middle and that could have found common ground with you. And while you have that opportunity through your art to grab their attention, you also, by example, can make differences and say, you know what? This guy's acting this way to other people. This person respects and acknowledges and has tolerance and has accountability and has all these qualities that I didn't think people like that had. And so you lead by example. So I wanted to leave you guys with that thought, only because as a parent, I know Dave's going through it too. We look at you guys and know, you're our kids, you're our generation after that. And, we're scared shit for you and my children. I'm looking and going, wow, what do we have for them? We have one shot. My generation had a shot. We didn't have the strength. I might have been the outspoken one when I was a kid. I was an ideologue. I was quite activistic. But I also had a father who was a U.S. congressman for 14 years. So, guys, I had the inside track. You know what I mean? So there was unique perspectives that I had that gave me the ability to know the way the game is played. But I noticed that my generation didn't do shit to change what could have been changed. They were riding the tail end of the baby boomer generation's glory. They were taking whatever was left of the scraps and they were riding it to the end. Whether it was the pensions, whether it was the secure jobs. When issues of environmental concerns were coming up, we were like, you know what? We don't want to mess with that because if we take a stand, we'll lose our job. Nobody was willing to throw themselves on the sword in my generation. I see your generation come in and I see a generation of my children. My son's 23, so he's that next generation.
Right. Yeah.
And we see how they're having to try to navigate around this. And most of them are getting introverted. Most of them are having their own little circles of communication, whether it's through Discord or whatever. They're recognizing that there's no role models for them. And
that's true. That's very true.
With the exception of extremes.
Right.
And that's as long as that keeps going, we're just not going to, as humanity cannot survive divided like it is. Arts, music, all of it. When the arts becomes a political tool and becomes divided, it's gone. Game over. We are the last things. We are the things that keep governments in check always. from having total control over divide and conquer methods. So I just know that I got to do if I got 5 or 10 years left in my life, I got to do what I got to do and can do to somehow keep bringing the focus on each people. I have, because like I said, I have on my Facebook, I have every spectrum from ultra right wing to left wing and everything in between. I have to be able to reach out to all of that spectrum, because if I lean one side too much to the other side, I alienate the other side, and I lose the opportunities by living by an example, by when I meet these people and they physically see me and they get a chance to communicate with me face to face or on social media or maybe a Facebook Live. They won't tune in because they're going to judge based on the status quo. So I have found I can get a lot more achieved when I use my creative talents to bring people together rather than separate one side or the other, even if the principles behind it may be right or wrong. And I think we're just lacking a lot of that. So that's what I'm trying to do. And I've challenged many of my other fellow artisans and musicians, to try to find a way to show people we're all in the same damn thing together here. We're on this ball and we're just trying to make it through. We all just want to be loved. We want to be acknowledged. We want to be treated with respect. We don't want to be judged. And if people had tolerance and acceptance and you had this kind of recognition from people they respect, you find that even the bigot will turn around and look and go, you know what? How does this person that I respect feel this way, do these things, believe this way? Maybe I should take a second look because I respect that person. If you alienate them out of the whole, you never grab their respect. You never even get their attention. And so I've witnessed this happen, man. I've witnessed that, there's this couple of songs from the 60s, everyone's carrying signs saying, hooray for my side.
Right.
No one ever.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so that's my philosophy closure for the evening. But
it's a good one. Great. It's a big part of why we like the long format, because you get a chance to actually get past just the surface bullshit. People come in with their canned answers ready to go. You get a chance to actually interact with a person as a human being, find out things that you never expected you'd find out, and share that with your audience. And so it's absolutely a big part of what we're doing here. So,
and you guys have a great platform to do it, and it's very diversified. And so you'll appeal to so many different types of tastes and ideas and thoughts. And, I figure this, when this gets on YouTube, you're going to have a whole bunch of people that are into Magic the Gathering, people that are into D&D, maybe some people that are into automotive from my groups as well. And then all of a sudden, those same people who are my fans are going to go and see this. I'm going to promote when you get on YouTube. I'm going to send it out on my social media. And they're going to come and see. And then they're going to know, hey, that's Ed Beard, my bro. Oh, I've never expressed my political opinion. They don't know that. They only know, and still to this day, they don't know. They only know, oh, that's the cool guy who's very creative. He's a good guy. He's a fair guy. He's a stand-up guy. He's an accountable guy, blah, blah, blah. And then they're going to see and hear, and he's a creative person who's sharing his abilities and talents to bring people together rather than separate. And then maybe they'll take an extra step, listen more. Now they're listening and tuning in, and they're going, okay, what does this show have to offer that maybe can be inclusive rather than exclusive? And I think that we as artists and musicians, we have at least the opportunity to use our attention-getting skill sets, the ability to grasp people and wonderment and, have them marvel at what we do. And if you listen to any of my Facebook Lives, you'll hear, I'm doing my demonstrations, but every now and then I throw out a concept of humanity and how things might be going. Like I may talk about copyright and infringement, and I may talk about something. And I'm always kind of being able to inject just some of the real life experience. Yeah. And you don't throw it down the throat. You just you feed it in a little bit of time and you go, hey guys, this is real experience. I'm going through this. And here's what it's like. You respect me and you like what I do. Well, here's something that negatively affects me. Here's something that may negatively affect my kids. It can affect yours. Now, all of a sudden, you got their attention. You don't sound like you're on a soapbox, but you sneak it in. And it's amazing how I actually got a private message about a week ago about a post that I made using my art as a leadway, a segue, and that someone actually said to me, she said, "Wow." She goes, "I don't think I've ever heard that statement being taken so direct, and that was very brave of you to do this." He said, "And you managed to do it without alienating the side." And I knew that's a winner. Now, I may have only gotten one message.
It's challenging. It's challenging to get it right. It's it's a high wire act, and it is worth the effort. And so we'll continue trying that as best we can. Hopefully our audience will do the same. And thank you so very much for your time tonight.
God.
I know our audience loved it. We loved it absolutely big time. Appreciate the time.
This was an honor. Thank you so much for coming by. It's
likewise.
This is awesome. The stories are. You met the Pope. I mean, Jesus.
You got us there. You got us there.
Crazy.
So Dustin is in the chat. He is going to queue us up for a raid. So we're going to take our audience. We're going to dump somewhere. So hopefully he'll tell me where he's planning on taking us.
The raid must go on.
That's right. And once he does that, looks like we're going to 019. What are they doing tonight, Dustin? We'll see. The delay on this always kills me.
We'll find out. They're magic players.
Oh, perfect.
My God.
All right.
Oh, boy.
So we're going to load the bus. And once that's queued down, go say hello to 019 and say... we're loving your content.
Fantastic.